Chapter 892, Zhou's background. This candidate was definitely voluntary, but who would be willing to try such a matter that concerned their lives? Xiao Qingyuan had smallpox when he was young, so even if he wanted to do it himself, it was impossible. Zhou seemed to have seen through his dilemma and immediately recommended himself. "Young master, let me do it." Xiao Qingyuan looked at him. "What did you say?" "I said I'll do it." He had no hesitation at all. He smiled and said, "I believe in young master. Young master can even make his own medicine. Cowpox is definitely not a problem for you. Besides, didn't we ask just now? A person infected with cowpox won't be in danger. It doesn't matter if I'm infected." Xiao Qingyuan looked at him with a serious gaze. "Then you know that it's not enough to infected with cowpox. If I want to know the results, you have to be infected with smallpox to see if it's really useful. Cowpox is fine, but what about smallpox? You might lose your life." Zhou smiled nonchalantly. "It's not that serious. Even if it's smallpox, we can still treat it if we prepare in advance." Xiao Qingyuan frowned slightly. Clearly he still didn't agree. He turned around and walked out of the cow farm. Then he went to other houses with cows and continued to learn about the situation of people who had cowpox. Along the way, Xiao Qingyuan didn't say anything else. Zhou was afraid that he would be angry, so he didn't dare to speak. He just followed behind him, looking like he wanted to say something but hesitated. The two of them got into the carriage and entered the city again. Zhou sat on the shaft of the carriage and rode. As his back was facing Xiao Qingyuan, he finally took a deep breath and said, "Young master, actually, I'm also afraid of smallpox. I'm especially afraid. You don't know, but I used to have a younger brother who was just a few years younger than me. He just had smallpox when he was young and he died." His voice lowered by 2 degrees, but it also sounded like a laugh. Xiao Qingyuan couldn't see his expression, but he knew that he definitely wasn't feeling well. He continued, "Smallpox is really too scary. Not only did my younger brother die, but even my parents contracted it while taking care of him. They both died. At that time, I happened to be in my grandfather's place and escaped a calamity. When I received the news and returned, the villagers scolded me. Because not only my parents and younger brother, but even 2 neighbors were in trouble. Master, don't you think smallpox is scary? Smallpox took my family away. I couldn't stay in the village anymore. I couldn't go to my grandfather's family either. I was completely alone. If I hadn't met Brother Mao and the others, I might have died now. I didn't even think about living such a good life now." Xiao Qingyuan was silent. "Young master, if you had such a method back then, my parents wouldn't have left. I just want to do something so that I would feel better. In the future, no one will be like me. Besides, didn't you say that doctors taste hundreds of herbs? Physicians with brilliant medical skills all eat poison themselves. I learned medicine from them. Why can't I grow cow acne?" Xiao Qingyuan now knew why Zhou was interested in studying medicine. Moreover, between the guard and the shop assistant, he had chosen to be a shop assistant. "Young master, just agree." Xiao Qingyuan was expressionless. "We'll talk about this later. Let's make sure that everyone who has cowpox hasn't contracted smallpox again." Zhou thought that it was fine. He would have a way to convince young master. Chapter 893, Gu Yundong felt her face hurt. In the next few days, Xiao Qingyuan went to several houses who raised cows. The results were the same. But it wasn't enough. Perhaps geographical location was also relevant. They had to understand not only the entire Xuanhe prefecture, but also other places. Xiao Qingyuan would only take action after confirming that the other prefectural cities were in the same situation. However, there was no time now because his pharmacy was finally going to open. Unlike Gu Yundong's guess, the pharmacy was not publicized with great fanfare. That was not right. Dr. Xiong was the only one who went to promote the pharmacy. Over the past few days, he had visited almost all the medical centers in the Xuanhe prefecture city. In Dr. Xiong's words, the doctors in this prefecture city are so knowledgeable and broad-minded. Especially those doctors in the big medical centers, they are still very willing to spar with me. They won't be angry even if they lose. They're just a little unconvinced. They'll look for me next time. As for me, I told us the address of our pharmacy and even asked them to introduce customers to our pharmacy later. Therefore, before this shop opened, the pharmacy was already famous. "It's you who's famous, isn't it?" Gu Yundong did not have the strength to complain, but on the day of the opening, a few doctors really came. Gu Yundong was speechless. Shouldn't these doctors be very busy? Dr. Xiong was also a very powerful person. How stupid was that medical center in the past to chase such a talent away? Just because he had a bad temper? Xiao Qingyuan set off a string of firecrackers. It was very lively and everyone nearby knew that there was a pharmacy here. Dr. Xiong called for the few doctors to walk in, but they were unwilling. They waved their hands and looked at the shop. There was no telling if it was because they didn't like Dr. Xiong or something, but after a while they started to pick on him. Your shop is too small. Old Xiong, you bragged to the sky back then. I've been waiting to see it. I'm a little disappointed. Me too. Sai, as expected, I shouldn't have trusted you back then. Also, there's only one assistant in your shop. Can you handle it? There are 6 or 7 herb attendants in our medical center. Gu Yundong felt her face hurt. Indeed, Dr. Xiong had friends who came to congratulate him. This was an illusion. These people must have been provoked by Dr. Xiong previously and were here to take revenge, right? Looking at the 2 guests who had just entered, they looked at each other and wondered if they should just turn around and leave. You don't have a lot of medicine cabinets and you don't have many medicinal herbs, right? One of the doctors said as he reached out to open the medicine cabinet on the left and took a look. In the next moment, his eyes suddenly paused and he shouted, Old Xiong. The others were shocked. What's wrong, what's wrong? Why are there so many herbs? Old Xiong, where did you buy the herbs in your pharmacy? The others came over to take a look. The doctor had already opened the medicine cabinet beside him. This is also full of boxes. Old Xiong, do you still have these herbs in the storeroom? Our medical center is very short of them. Hurry up and prepare some for me. Me too, us too. After the others took a look, they immediately fought to be the first to shout. One by one they opened a few medicine cabinets and saw a few more precious and rare medicinal herbs. Their eyes immediately lit up like wolves seeing meat. They wished they could bring all the medicinal herbs in these medicine cabinets home. The customers in the pharmacy were all stunned. Were these doctors really the doctors from the medical centers they knew? Chapter 894. Something happened at home. Gu Yundong felt, her face hurt again. Alright, these doctors were indeed Dr. Xiong's friends. Look at how they suppressed their desires first. It was simply a big move for publicity. Did you see the customers watching the commotion outside the pharmacy? They all squeezed in. On the other hand, Dr. Xiong had a proud expression on his face. He rushed forward and slapped the hands of the doctors away. What are you doing? Stop it. Don't you have any manners? How can you open the medicine cabinets in other people's shops casually? If our medicine shop is missing something, will you be responsible? The doctor who was the first to make a move was a little embarrassed. They were indeed here to make Dr. Xiong uncomfortable. Who asked Dr. Xiong to be so disrespectful in the past? However, they really liked medicinal herbs too. Now that they saw these medicinal herbs, all of them seemed to have been injected with chicken blood. They did not care about anything else and only wanted to quickly obtain them. Old Xiong, this is our fault. I'm sorry, so do you have more medicinal herbs in your warehouse? Give me a sack. Me too. I want a sack too. Me too. Me too. Everyone looked at the last person who spoke. This person should be a guest who had just entered. He did not know the situation yet, but seeing that everyone was fighting to be the first to ask for something, he quickly echoed. Dr. Xiong's mouth twitched. What do you want? Are you guests of our shop? No, so these herbs are not for you. Alright, move aside. I'm going to entertain the guests. Hey old Xiong, don't say that. We're guests here today. Really? Dr. Xiong glanced at them from the corner of his eye. Sure. You're buying medicine, right? Bring the prescription over. If there's a prescription, it'll make the medicine. The few of them looked at each other. They were not sick or in pain. What prescription did they want? However, what they said just now had clearly offended Dr. Xiong. Seeing that he was unwilling to let the matter rest, they did not know what to do. Gu Yundong watched and thought for a moment before whispering something to Tong Shuetao. Tong Shuetao immediately took out a brush and paper from behind the counter and silently handed it to one of the doctors. She winked at him. At first, the doctor did not understand. He thought that Tong Shuetao had feelings for him and was a little unhappy. However, when he saw the brush and paper in his hand, he immediately understood and immediately wrote on the counter. After a while, he wrote 3 prescriptions and handed them to Dr. Xiong. Come, prepare the medicine. He was a doctor. Wasn't it easy to write a prescription? Seeing this, the others immediately came to a realization and followed suit. Dr. Xiong had seen Tong Shuetao's actions just now. He also understood what Gu Yundong meant. One still had to do business in a pharmacy. There was no reason to push money out. Therefore, although his face was dark, he still prepared the medicine quickly. On the first day of the opening, because of a few doctors looking for trouble, it became famous on the same day. Xiao Qingyuan saw that there was no problem with the pharmacy, so he said to Gu Yundong, Tomorrow, I want to go to the cow farms in Qingan Prefecture to take a look. Gu Yundong knew that he was focused on the vaccination of cowpox, so she nodded and said, "Be careful. Don't worry." However, the next morning before Xiao Qingyuan went out, a horse suddenly galloped over and stopped at the door of the small courtyard not long after. Someone got off the horse and anxiously knocked on the door. The moment he saw Gu Yundong, he panted and said, "Miss, something happened at home." Chapter 895. Someone wants to kill Yunshu. The person who came was an acquaintance called Zhou. He was the escort that Xiao Qingyuan had invited to teach Mao and the other 3 martial arts. His frown was very serious and Gu Yundong's heart skipped a beat. What happened? Zhou looked around. Xiao Qingyuan understood and quickly got Lu Sheng to settle the horse first. Then he led him through the door, blocking the neighbors from peeking out when they heard the commotion. After entering, the 3 of them went straight to the central room. Zhou didn't see Gu Dajiang. He should have gone to the academy, but Gu Dafeng and the others were there. Hence, he lowered his voice and whispered, "Someone wants to kill young Master Yunshu." "What did you say?" Gu Yundong suddenly looked up. Her expression changed drastically as she asked anxiously, "How is Yunshu now?" "He's fine. It's just that," Zhou paused with a hint of pity. "It's just that Tong'an was stabbed in the abdomen while protecting Yunshu. His head was also smashed by a wooden stick. I was called over by Mr. Qin to inform you. Before I came he was still unconscious. I don't know if Tong'an is out of danger." He had set off yesterday evening. Although he had sped up, the city gate was still closed when he arrived at the prefectural city. Therefore he waited until the city gate opened this morning before coming in. Then he went straight to the small courtyard. Gu Yundong's fingers trembled slightly. Her voice was cold and her eyes were fierce. "Who did this?" "It's the teacher who taught at Dongyi Academy previously." Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan were stunned. The master of Dongyi Academy? When the 2 of them heard that someone wanted to kill Yunshu, and that Zhou was called over by Qin Wenjing, their first reaction was that the Tao family did it. How was the master of Dongyi Academy involved in this? Zhou said, "Master Wei has been taken away by the government office and imprisoned. The exact cause will only be known after the county master interrogates him." Master Qin guessed that Master Wei was indignant after being chased away by Dongyi Academy. He must have deliberately taken revenge on young Master Yunshu. Gu Yundong nodded randomly. No matter the reason, the most important thing now was whether Tong'an was safe or not. She looked up and said to Xiao Qingyuan, "He'll go back now. Go to the Huimin Medical Center and invite Dr. He to Fengkai County. Tong'an's head is injured and Dr. He happens to be good at this." "Okay." Only then did Gu Yundong walk out of the central room. She said to Gu Dafeng, who was looking over worriedly, "Eldest aunt, there's a problem with the family's business. Brother Xiao and I have to go back. Help me take care of my mother and the rest. When my father comes back, just tell him." "Is everything all right?" Gu Dafeng asked worriedly. Gu Yundong shook her head. "It's fine. I can handle it." It was better not to let others know about this for the time being. The exact situation was still unclear, so it was best to prevent them from worrying. Zhou must have received instructions from Qin Wenjing to tell the 2 of them alone. With that, Gu Yundong left with Tong Shuitao. Xiao Qingyuan let Zhou rest for a while and immediately led the carriage straight to Huimin Medical Center. Gu Yundong and Tong Shuitao went straight to Fengkai County. They left early, but it was already afternoon when they arrived at Fengkai County. Due to the proximity, Gu Yundong went straight to the county town's Gus and found Zhuangzi. Zhuangzi definitely knew about such a serious matter. As expected, when she arrived at the shop, Zhuangzi hurriedly came out to welcome her. "Boss, you're back." Chapter 896. Is this their relationship? Gu Yundong asked, "How is Tong'an now? Is he in danger? Where is he now?" "Boss, don't be anxious. The doctor said that Tong'an's life is saved." Seeing that she was in a hurry and her voice was hoarse when she spoke, Zhuangzi quickly poured them 2 glasses of water. When Gu Yundong heard that his life was saved, she heaved a sigh of relief and drank a large glass of water. Seeing that she was breathing evenly, Zhuangzi continued, "But Tong'an has been unconscious and hasn't woken up." Gu Yundong frowned. Tong Shuitao was also flustered. Tong'an was her biological uncle. After hearing that he was injured, she had been on tenterhooks all the way and almost fell off her horse a few times. Zhuangzi said, "The doctor said that he injured his head. There have been such cases in the past, but we don't know how long Tong'an will be unconscious for. It's possible for him to be unconscious for a day or 2 or even a month or 2. The doctors in the county city don't have much experience in this aspect, so they don't dare to do anything. However, Master Chen said that he has already sent someone to inform the boss. The boss will definitely bring the doctors from the prefectural city over. He asked us to wait. Therefore, Tongan has already been brought back to Yongfu village. Gu Yundong nodded. It seemed that she could only wait for elder brother Xiao to bring Dr. He over. What about that Master Wei who committed the crime? Did he explain why he wanted to harm Yunshu? Zhuangzi did not know about this. Mr. Chen is keeping an eye on the government office. Although he had also asked his friends in the county city, he did not find out anything for the time being. He'll go look for Qin Wenjing first. All right. Zhuangzi quickly stopped her. Master Chen should be in Yongfu village now. Gu Yundong nodded and went out. She mounted her horse and immediately headed for Yongfu village. When she arrived at the entrance of the Gu residence, she saw Father Tong hurriedly welcome her. Miss, you're back. As he spoke, he looked behind her. Gu Yundong knew what he was looking at and explained, the doctor is at the back. Brother Xiao will bring him over later. Father Tong heaved a sigh of relief and quickly led the horse to the backyard. The atmosphere in the Gu residence was a little gloomy. Perhaps because they heard the commotion outside, Yunshu and Yuanji quickly ran out. Big sister. The moment the little guy saw her, the emotions he had been holding back collapsed. He rushed over and hugged her waist tightly. Gu Yundong squatted down and touched his head. It's all right, it's all right. Eldest sister is back. Yunshu's eyes were slightly red and tears were rolling in them. Sister, Tongan was injured because he saved me. I know. Eldest sister has already called Dr. He over. He will save Tongan, don't worry. She hugged the little guy and knew that he must be feeling extremely guilty. She could not help but sigh slightly and get up to lead him inside. Qin Wenjing was also there. When he saw her return, he nodded slightly. Gu Yundong went to see Tongan first. Tongan was lying quietly on the bed. He had already changed into clean clothes and his forehead was still wrapped in gauze. His face was pale and bloodless. Other than elderly Lady Tong, Madame Cui, who was wiping her tears, there was also Shin Sidian in the house. To her surprise, Shin Sishin's tears did not stop. Her hand was still holding Tong An's hand tightly. Gu Yundong was shocked. Although it was inappropriate, Gu Yundong still felt that she was hallucinating when she saw this scene. When did the two of them have such a relationship? Chapter 897. He's here for me. Gu Yundong shook her head, suppressed the doubts in her heart and walked out again. Qin Wenjing stood at the door. Seeing her come out, he walked to the side. When she caught up, he said, I'm sorry this happened because of me. Gu Yundong was stunned. What do you mean? Is there a result from the county office? Qin Wenjing nodded. Then Master Wei was originally targeting me. Master Wei was originally a teacher of Dongyi Academy and had always thought highly of himself. Coupled with his kinship with the dean, he could be considered to have a very high status in the academy. Otherwise, why would he act so wantonly when the director was in the capital and not in Fengkai County? However, he did not expect that the consequences of his tyranny would actually ruin his future. The first time Gu Yundong saw him, he had pressured Madame Gu at the entrance of Qin Wenzheng School and almost caused her to fall and be injured. Although Master Wei was at a disadvantage in the end, Qin Wenjing doted on his wife. How could he really forgive someone who almost hurt his wife? Qin Wenjing would remember this debt. At this point, Qin Wenjing only wanted to find an opportunity to teach him a lesson. He did not really want him to pay any price. However, Master Wei courted death himself. Later on, he brought the students of Dongyi Academy and took advantage of Qin Wenzheng's absence to challenge his students. Moreover, he had lost in public and became the laughing stock of the entire county. The acting director could not take it anymore and suspended his position as a teacher. This matter would wait until the director returned to Fengkai County. At that time, Master Wei had wanted to plead with the dean, but he did not expect the dean to know Qin Wenzheng's identity. Qin Wenjing naturally would not show mercy to someone who had caused trouble for his wife and students several times. In addition, the dean was also dissatisfied with Master Wei's actions, so he completely chased him out of Dongyi Academy. He even issued an expulsion document and punished Master Wei in public in front of all the students in the academy. Master Wei had lost all face. He left the academy dejectedly. After returning home, he was even criticized by his neighbors. He was famous in the county, so it was impossible for him to teach elsewhere. Even his family was implicated by him and was kept a respectful distance from. Because of this, Master Wei was extremely disliked at home. His wife, who used to be gentle and caring in front of him, seemed to have become a different person. Not only did she despise him all day, but she also slept in separate rooms with him. His family was also experiencing more and more difficulties. He no longer had any income as a teacher and could only eat surplus food. The food he ate also changed from fine food to coarse food. In the end, he could only eat until he was half full. Day after day, the conflict in the family deepened. Master Wei's temperament became more and more gloomy, and he slowly began to drink. Last time, he stole money and was discovered by his wife. Then he hit his wife. His wife exploded and went back to find her brother. In turn, her brother beat up Master Wei and almost beat him to death. He lay in bed for half a month to recover. Alright, he did not dare to touch his wife, but he had to vent the anger in his heart. Hence, he targeted Qin Wenzheng. Master Wei felt that his current situation was all because of Qin Wenzheng. Yesterday, after drinking a little, he began to gather his courage. He picked up a pair of sharp scissors and left. Chapter 898. No such reason. Master Wei went to the entrance of Qin Wenzheng's school because he wanted to rush up and cut him when he came out. However, he waited for 2 hours and Qin Wenzheng did not come out. He wanted to go in, but there was a gatekeeper guarding outside, so he never found an opportunity. At this moment, the school ended and Yunshu and Yuanji came out. Coincidentally, Father Tong was not feeling well yesterday, so the person who picked them up was Tong, and Yunshu and Yuanji were the last to come out. Because Niu Dan had also come to the county city to study, they wanted to go back together every day. The three of them were good friends and could not wait to travel together. It was just that Dongyi Academy ended later, so Yunshu and the other student were not in a hurry to set off. They would wait for the other students in the academy to leave before going to Dongyi Academy to pick Niu Dan up. When the two of them ran to the carriage, they happened to mention the Dongyi Academy. Master Wei, who was standing not far away, immediately turned his attention to them. He looked at Yunshu and thought of how the kid had embarrassed him back then. He also thought of how the kid's sister, Gu Yundong, had embarrassed him. He felt that these two people had also contributed greatly to everything he had encountered today. At that moment, hatred surged and he was drunk. Without thinking, he rushed towards Gu Yunshu. Tong had just carried Yuanji into the carriage when he turned around and saw Master Wei stabbing at Yunshu with a pair of scissors. His expression changed drastically on the spot. Without thinking, he picked Yunshu up and dodged the pair of scissors. However, Master Wei could not stop himself. The scissors pierced into Tong An's body due to inertia. Tong cried out in pain. He still remembered to put Gu Yunshu down carefully at a time like this. The moment Master Wei saw the blood, he suddenly woke up. Especially since the person he stabbed was actually a stranger. This made him subconsciously look at Yunshu. However, this glance made Tong think that Master Wei was still unwilling to give up and planned to harm Yunshu again. Therefore, when Master Wei was about to escape, he grabbed his hand and asked Yunshu to hurry and call for help. Master Wei panicked, especially when he saw that someone was already running over. Without thinking, he picked up a wooden stick from the ground and slapped him hard on the head. In a moment of desperation, he hit Tong hard and ruthlessly. Tong only saw a blur before her eyes and he fell straight back. Fortunately, at this moment, the gatekeeper of the Qin family ran over from afar. The people on the street who heard the commotion also ran over. Master Wei was arrested, but Tong was unconscious. He was sent to the nearest medical center. The doctor stopped the bleeding and bandaged his wound, but there was nothing he could do about the wound on his head. Yunshu quickly went to Xiao Qingyuan's pharmacy to invite the old doctor over, but after the old doctor saw it, he gave the same conclusion. Head injuries had always been complicated. Physicians who were not proficient in this aspect did not dare to inject rashly. Yunshu blamed himself very much. He saw clearly that Master Wei was coming for him. Tong was injured to save him and he didn't wake up. For the entire night, he did not dare to sleep. He was afraid that Tong would leave without realizing it. His small body was tense all the way until Gu Yundong returned. Qin Wenzheng's voice was deep. He originally came for me. You don't have to blame yourself too much. He touched Yunshu's little head. This matter was completely caused by Master Wei venting his anger. What had Yunshu done? He had only retaliated when Master Wei made things difficult for him. Could it be that Master Wei was the only one who could bully him and he was not allowed to refute? There was no such logic. Chapter 899. Doctor, he is here. Gu Yundong also said, Master Wei is at fault in this matter. What we have to do now is to do our best to treat Tong and punish the murderer according to law to avenge Tong. Yunshu pouted slightly and nodded. I understand, big sister. They didn't know when Tong Ping had come over. Ever since Tong An was injured yesterday, the only thing he could do as a big brother was to help him do his job well. Eldest Miss was not around and young master was still young. Tong An had always been in charge of the workshop. Tong Ping was worried that Tong An's injury would affect the workshop and make everyone panic. Therefore, although he was also worried about Tong An's health, he still went to the workshop early in the morning to stabilize the situation. At this moment he looked a little haggard. Gu Yundong nodded at him. Thank you for your hard work. I'm fine. This is what I should do in the first place. Tong Ping often ran around outside now, so he was already much more reliable. I won't let the workshop be in chaos. Miss, don't worry. When Tong An wakes up, he can also be at ease. After a pause he looked at Gu Yunshu. Young master, on the other hand, you didn't sleep last night. If this continues, I'm afraid you won't be able to take it. Gu Yundong lowered her head. The child shook his head quickly. I'm not sleepy at all. You still have to sleep. Gu Yundong carried him up and walked towards the room. Children won't grow tall if they don't sleep. But Tong An, Gu Yundong placed him on the bed and took off his shoes and jacket. She covered him with the blanket and patted him gently. Big sister is here. Big sis is here. These words seemed to have magic to Yunshu. In the past, when they were escaping from the famine, Gu Yundong had always said that eldest sister was around. With eldest sister around he could finally relax. With eldest sister around he finally did not have to work hard to support everything with his small shoulders and endure it. The child's tears fell. He wiped them away with the back of his hand and hummed softly with a nasal voice. Then he pulled the blanket up and closed his eyes after covering most of his face. After all, he had not slept for the entire night. The fatigue in his body quickly surged. Gu Yundong patted the blanket gently and he fell asleep in no time. Only then did Gu Yundong gently pull the blanket down, revealing a slightly red face. After a long time, she gently left the room. Yuanji, who was also worried, stood outside the door. Is Yunshu asleep? Yes, he's asleep. You didn't rest well either, right? Go and sleep. Yuanji nodded heavily before quietly entering the house. He carefully lifted the blanket and crawled into bed. The two children slept side by side and felt the entire room become warm. Gu Yundong gently closed the door. When she turned around, her expression darkened. Qin Wenzheng was still standing at his original spot, waiting for her. When he saw her coming over, he said, "I'll keep an eye on the government office. Don't worry, I won't let him have an easy time." Yeah. Only then did Qin Wenzheng leave. With Gu Yundong around, there was no need to worry too much. When it was almost evening, Xiao Qingyuan finally returned. Doctor He came back with him. Doctor He seemed to be in a bad state. When he arrived at the Gu residence, his legs were weak. Gu Yundong was surprised. Didn't you take a carriage? Doctor He turned around and glared at Xiao Qingyuan, almost falling forward. Xiao Qingyuan reached out to support him expressionlessly and pushed him forward. Chapter 900. There's nothing wrong with that. Where is Tong An? Xiao Qingyuan asked. Gu Yundong pointed ahead. In his own room. Xiao Qingyuan was about to lead Dr. He over when Gu Yundong hurriedly stopped him. Wait, how can Dr. He treat someone under such circumstances? His hands are trembling. Don't make a mistake and ruin things. The few people, including Madame Cui, who happened to hear the commotion outside, heard this and did not come forward. Dr. He panted and said, Yundong is the most sensible. Look at the person you found. Really, he almost took my life. Dr. He, you rode a horse too? Tong Ping brought a chair over for Dr. He and poured water for him. When he recovered, he said, I was originally in the carriage, but Xiao Qingyuan, this kid, was almost at the entrance of the county city. He suddenly despised the speed of the carriage and pulled me onto the horse's back. Then he rushed over. Gu Yundong looked at Xiao Qingyuan suspiciously. The latter had a good reason. Dr. He, you're not used to sitting in a carriage. The journey is too slow. If we don't ride into the city at the last moment, the city gate will be closed. We can only reach Yongfu village tomorrow. There was nothing wrong with that. Gu Yundong coughed lightly. Dr. He, you must be tired. Dr. He snorted coldly. Fortunately, he had a gentle personality. Although he was angry, he knew that saving people was more important. He let it go after complaining a little. He was already old, so he would not argue with this kid. Dr. He waved his hand magnanimously. All right, bring me to the patient first. Are you done resting? More or less. Actually, Xiao Qingyuan's speed was already much slower on the way into the village. Dr. He was still supported by Xiao Qingyuan. Tong Ping immediately went forward to support his other side, making him look like a seriously ill patient. Gu Yundong followed them into the room and sighed slightly when she saw Chen Sidian. She was still here. It was only when Madame Cui told her that the doctor was here that she stood up, wiped her face and moved to the side. Doctor, he removed the gauze on Tong An's head and took his pulse. He nodded slightly. How is it? Chen Sidian asked anxiously. Doctor, he said, well, although it's a little serious, it can be treated. The people in the room immediately looked happy. It's good that it can be treated. That's great. Doctor, he said, he'll get ready. He'll give him acupuncture tomorrow. Tomorrow? Can't we do it today? Madame Cui asked softly. She was very worried. She hoped that her son would wake up as soon as possible. Otherwise she would be worried and unable to eat or sleep well. Doctor, he knew that they were anxious, but... He pointed at the sky outside. It's already so late. I can't even see clearly. How can it be easy to perform acupuncture? As he spoke, he glanced at Xiao Qingyuan meaningfully. See, even if you rush me into the city today, it's still useless. Xiao Qingyuan pretended not to see his gaze. When the others heard Dr. He's explanation, although they were a little disappointed, they were still very happy to know that Tong An was fine. Chen Sidian also heaved a sigh of relief. After all, she had not slept for a day and night. Coupled with the fact that her body had been tense, she could not take it anymore and her body swayed. Gu Yundong quickly took a step forward and held her back. You should rest too. Thank you. Chen Sidian wiped her face and finally revealed a smile. If you hadn't brought Dr. He over, Tong An would probably... Gu Yundong looked at her and a thought suddenly flashed across her mind. Chapter 901. Concern. This thought ran through Gu Yundong's mind for a moment before she temporarily suppressed it. There was no hurry. She would treat Tong An first and ask him when he woke up. With his contributions this time, it was not impossible to remove his servant status. Dr. He temporarily settled down in the Gu residence. Madame Cui tidied up the guest room for him and came out. Dr. He had been on the road for the entire day and rested after dinner. The next morning, under everyone's eager anticipation, he carried the first aid kit and focused on performing acupuncture for Tong An. Apart from Tong Ping, who was his assistant, everyone else was waiting outside. Yunshu and Yuanji squatted on the ground, hugging Big Black and staring at the door. Gu Yundong watched from behind. She knew that the two children were anxious, so she did not persuade them. After half a day, there was a slight sound in the house. When Tong Ping opened the door, Dr. He walked out while wiping his sweat. Doctor, how is Tong An? Madame Cui was the first to go up and ask. Doctor, he said, he's fine. If nothing goes wrong, he'll wake up tonight. Joy instantly flashed across everyone's faces. Yunshu and Yuanji heaved a long sigh of relief and completely smiled. Since Tong An was fine, the others no longer stayed in the room. Gu Yundong sent the two children back to their rooms to read while she went to the workshop in the village. She had come back in a hurry yesterday and was worried about Yunshu and Tong An, so she did not go out. Now Tong An was in charge of the workshop. Since he was unconscious, she naturally had to go and take a look. There were more than 100 workers in the workshop now. Ever since they recruited 50 long-term workers last time, the workshop had become much livelier. In particular, many people came from other villages that were too far and it was inconvenient to go back. The row of dormitories behind the workshop was used. When Gu Yundong went over, many people immediately surrounded her and asked about Tong An's situation with concern. Boss, is Steward Tong all right? Boss, have you caught the perpetrator? Boss, if there's anything you need our help with, just tell us. Most of the people who asked questions were the long-term workers from before. They were more familiar with her and dared to speak in front of her. Although the people who came later were also concerned, they still stood a distance away. Gu Yundong answered the questions one by one. She watched as everyone in the workshop worked in an orderly manner. Even though Tong An was not around, no one seemed to be slacking off. It seemed that Tong An had indeed managed it very well. After walking past the jam area, Gu Yundong went to the dried fruits area. Finally, she arrived at the sugar production room. Since the sugar cane matured this year, the production of white sugar was naturally on the agenda. This time she did not do it herself, nor did she leave the last step in the Gu family's backyard. In the beginning, Gu Yundong had estimated that the production of white sugar could be monopolized for 2 to 3 years. After that, it would definitely become more and more common. Now that the imperial court was controlling it, no one dared to brazenly sell white sugar. However, Qin Wenzheng had told her that there were already people in the capital who had secretly made them. It was just that under the emperor's nose, these people would only use them for themselves and would not dare to sell them. The emperor would turn a blind eye to such small actions. Although Gu Yundong did not expect to always monopolize the technology, the current production in this area was still in the hands of people she trusted. In the sugar area, the Zheng couple and the group of people who had worked with her for a short time were all busy. Chapter 902. Talk to you. Of course, these people also had the highest salary. Gu Yundong trusted the Zheng couple the most, so they were in charge of this. Although Madame Dong had a soft personality, Zheng who had some talent in management. He would be tough or soft when he needed to be. Therefore, the Zheng couple's monthly salary was already 4 taels of silver. It was said that after the new year, the couple planned to send Zheng Lu to a private school. Now Yunshu, Yuanji, Nyodan and the Zheng family were all studying in school. Zheng Yu had been learning embroidery from Shen Cidian recently. Hence, Zheng Lu was often the only one at home. In the past, the Zheng family was poor and lived far away. The 3 children of the Zheng family were sensible enough to help the family work and rarely went out to play with the other children. As a result, Zheng Lu had almost no friends in the village who were on good terms with him. Now he could go out to play. However, as he played, he came back covered in mud and dirty. He went up the mountains and down the river like a wild monkey. Every time Madame Dong looked at him and then at her eldest son, who had returned from the private school, she felt very vexed. She thought that he should indeed study. Apart from this, the Zheng family also planned to rebuild their house. Gu Yundong was naturally happy for them. When they first came to Yongfu village, the Zheng family had shown them kindness. Now she had repaid them. The others in the village were extremely envious. Some of them regretted even more. If only Gu Yundong had stayed in their house back then. Perhaps they would have been the ones to build a new house today. There were even people who laughed at Madame Fong and her daughter. Look, they didn't see such a good opportunity back then and even chased them out. In the end, the Zheng family rose step by step, but Madame Fong and her daughter cut ties with the village chief's family. Gu Yundong had heard these rumors occasionally. This was exactly what she wanted. She wanted everyone to understand that if they followed her, they would have food to eat, a new house to live in and a good life. If they insisted on finding trouble with her, they would have to consider the consequences. After looking at the sugar area, Gu Yundong went to the dormitories at the back. It seemed that 1/3 of the dormitories had already been occupied. It looked a little lively. It was already noon by the time she finished checking the workshop. Tong'an woke up much earlier than Dr. He had said. He woke up not long after noon. Dr. He examined him and nodded to confirm that he was fine. As long as you recuperate well, there won't be a big problem. Dr. He left the medicine and instructed them to take note of things. The next day he returned to the prefectural city. It was Xiao Qingyuan who sent him back. He also went to the prefectural city to report to Gu Dajiang and the others. Then he continued to study the problem of cowpox. Gu Yundong stayed behind. After Tong'an recuperated for 2 days and became a little more energetic, she went to find him. Tong'an was lying on the bed and reading a book. Now that he could read, he had nothing to do while he was recuperating, so he read to pass the time. When he saw Gu Yundong enter, he quickly straightened his body. "Miss, why are you here? Don't move. I just want to talk to you." Tong'an didn't understand. "Miss, if there's anything you need, just tell me." Gu Yundong pulled a stool and sat down beside him. "It's about this matter. I want to thank you. It's all thanks to you a few days ago. If you hadn't saved Yunshu, that pair of scissors would have pierced into him. He might not even have been able to keep his life." Chapter 903. Tong'an's thoughts. Tong'an was terrified and hurriedly said, "Miss, what are you saying? I'm a servant of the Gu family. It's my duty to protect my master. Not to mention that I'm fine now. Even if I really die, it's my fate. It's not worth Miss thanking me. Moreover, I've been recuperating these few days. Young master and young master often visit me and bought a lot of things. I'm already very touched." Tong'an's words were not fake at all. He really thought so. He had been a servant since he was young and had served the young master in the previous master's house. They had never treated servants as humans. The servants' lives had never been up to them. When the Tong family arrived at the Gu family, they were really nervous at first. However, the young masters and mistresses of the Gu family treated them extremely well and had never beaten or scolded them. They did not mind that he was clumsy with his words and let him read and become the manager of the workshop. Tong'an had always felt that he would never be able to repay Miss for her trust. He wished he could dig out his heart and give it all to the Gu family. This time he was even willing to block the scissors for his young master. Thinking that he would finally be useful, he did not regret it at all. In fact, he was happy to be able to save his young master. Gu Yundong believed him, but, no matter what, you've made a great contribution. You have to be rewarded. Gu Yundong said, you can tell me directly what reward you want. I don't need it. Tong'an blurted out without even thinking. Young miss and young master treat us well and value us so much. It's already the best reward for us. Gu Yundong was speechless. She had a headache. She used to think that Tong'an was quite honest, but she didn't expect him to be so honest. She paused and reminded him, actually, you can think about it again. For example, if you plan to get married and have children, I can help you. Or if you're missing something, you can mention it. No need. I don't plan to get married again in this life. I don't lack anything. The Gu family has everything and I have such a high monthly salary. I can buy anything I want. Gu Yundong frowned. Judging from his resolute tone, did he really not intend to get married again? Could it be that he had no feelings for Shinsidian? Gu Yundong's head hurt even more. She looked at Tong'an carefully for a moment. Indeed, she did not see any embarrassment on his face. She sighed silently in her heart. Then, save it first. When you think of it, we'll settle it together. Gu Yundong stood up. Rest well first. I'm leaving. She went out the door, puzzled. What should she do if her brain wasn't enough? What was going on with these two? She wondered if she should ask Shinsidian for her opinion, but in the following days, Shinsidian did not take a step closer to Tong'an's room. It was as if on that day when Tong'an was unconscious, the scene of her holding Tong'an's hand and crying was just Gu Yundong's imagination. What were these two doing? Gu Yundong went straight to Shinsidian and asked her what had happened that day. Shinsidian shook her head and said, I was just shocked that day. Gu Yundong would be a fool to believe her. Tell me honestly, have you taken a fancy to Tong'an? Did you tell him? Yundong, I don't plan to get married again in this life. You know what I've experienced in the past and I can't tell anyone about it. I just want to build a house next to this place after I save enough money. I might adopt a child in the future and that will be all for the rest of my life. Chapter 904. Everyone is back. Gu Yundong did not agree with her negative thoughts, but she could not even figure out her own feelings, let alone others giving her suggestions. Annoying. Forget it. Anyway, there's no hurry. Perhaps you'll change your mind in the future. Gu Yundong guessed that she might not have gotten over Gu Gang's matter, so she could not force her. Anyway, I'm always here when you need me. Yes, thank you. Shinsidian smiled very easily. It's my greatest blessing to have you as my friend. Gu Yundong did not interfere in this matter anymore. She would let nature take its course. She was very busy for the next few days. Tong'an was recuperating, Xiao Qingyuan was looking for a way to treat smallpox, and Gu Yundong had to manage the workshop. She also took the time to buy dozens of acres of orchard. The Sure couple was very experienced in cultivating fruit forests, but they were indeed lacking in management. Gu Yundong began to place Zhao Zhu in an important position. Zhao Zhu was quite bold. He helped Gu Yundong recruit some farmers to take care of the fruit forest. In addition, his son was becoming more and more reliable. Now his life was getting better and better. Of the 4 hooligans who had come to Gu Yundong's house to steal money, other than Liang who had broken his leg and stayed at home all day crying and tormenting his parents, all were already working for Gu Yundong. This made Liang's mother, Jin Yuexiang, feel unbalanced. She often badmouthed Gu Yundong in the village. Unfortunately, more than half of the people in Yongfu village were working in Gu Yundong's workshop or orchard. Naturally, they would not listen to her. Even if they did not work for the Gu family, they hoped that they would be chosen one day. How could they help Jin Yuexiang frame the Gu family? On the contrary, the Hu family became even more unpopular in the village. The days passed by in a flash. During this period, the workshop sent goods to the prefectural city a few more times and even brought Gu Dajiang's letter. He only asked her about her daily life and didn't know about Yunshu. Master Weiss' case had already ended. The news Qin Wenzheng gave her said that he had been sentenced to a place thousands of kilometers away. She busied herself until the end of the month and it was finally Gu Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony. She had even forgotten about this day. Unexpectedly, one day her parents, sister, eldest aunt and Aunt Ku returned. Only then did she suddenly remember that this was an especially important day for her. Eldest uncle did not follow them back. His leg had only been treated for a month, and Dr. Xiong had instructed him not to move around. He could not sit in the carriage, so he could only regretfully stay in the prefectural city. Lu Sheng and Auntie Nyo were still in the small courtyard so they could take care of him. But he prepared a coming-of-age gift for you. Gu Dafeng handed her a wooden sculpture. It was a wooden carving of a screen. It was not complicated, but it was very detailed and beautiful. It could be seen that Uncle had put in a lot of effort when carving it. I love it, thank you. There were still 2 days before her coming-of-age ceremony. In the afternoon, Xiao Qingyuan returned. However, even though he looked normal, Gu Yundong keenly noticed that he looked haggard and was in a bad mood. What was going on? Was there a problem with the cowpox vaccination method? Gu Yundong immediately became nervous. While her parents were not paying attention, she quickly pulled him aside and asked, "Did it not go well?" Xiao Qingyuan heaved a sigh of relief. "No, it went very smoothly. I've already succeeded in one case." Gu Yundong was delighted. "Really? You really succeeded? Isn't that great? Why do you look so pale?" With how much Xiao Qingyuan valued this matter, he should be happy. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 905. Surprised Qin Wenjing. Xiao Qingyuan was indeed happy, but he was also a little angry. Do you know who the successful one is? Gu Yundong frowned and shook her head. Xiao Qingyuan said, "Ah Zhu." Gu Yundong's eyes widened. He got infected? Did he agree to it? It's not just that. Xiao Qingyuan sneered. He got cowpox himself. After he recovered, he got smallpox. Gu Yundong was speechless. Although she knew that the cowpox vaccination method was correct, Ah Zhu did not know. No one could guarantee that such an unprecedented experiment would be foolproof. Wasn't he too bold? Xiao Qingyuan also felt that Ah Zhu was bold. He had originally planned to come back a few days earlier. However, now that something like this had happened to Ah Zhu, Xiao Qingyuan couldn't leave. He had to stay and take care of him, lest he really courted death. He only returned after confirming that Ah Zhu had completely recovered. However, after taking care of him day and night for a few days, Xiao Qingyuan's expression finally didn't look good. He told Gu Yundong about Ah Zhu's family. Only then did Gu Yundong understand why he would do this. How should he put it? One was Ah Zhu's trust in Xiao Qingyuan, and the other was to unlock one of his obsessions. Xiao Qingyuan rubbed his temples. Seeing that he was really tired, Gu Yundong hurriedly chased him to rest. Go home and have a good sleep first. My coming-of-age ceremony is still 2 days away. When you're done resting, well, go to the county city tomorrow and talk to Qin Wenjing about your important achievement. Xiao Qingyuan was stunned. Tomorrow? We only succeeded once. It's not enough. That's enough. We can report this matter to the emperor first. Besides, the emperor will definitely verify it. They will also arrange for the imperial physicians to repeatedly confirm this method. Xiao Qingyuan narrowed his eyes. She was in such a hurry. Is there any news from Qin Wenjing? Gu Yundong knew that she could not hide it from him. Yes, when I went to the county yesterday, I heard from Qin Wenjing that the situation was a little serious. All right, let's go to the county tomorrow. Seeing that he agreed, Gu Yundong hurried him back to rest. The next morning, Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan rushed to the county city. The county city was still very lively. The two of them first sent Niu Dan to Dongyi Academy, then brought Yunshu and Yuanji to Qin Wenzheng School. After sending the two of them to the lecture hall, Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan went straight to Qin Wenzheng's study. Qin Wenjing was a little surprised to see the two of them. Why are you here so early? Xiao Qingyuan did not speak. Gu Yundong took a step forward, coughed lightly, and looked a little mysterious. We brought you good news. Is there any bad news after the good news? Qin Wenjing asked with a smile. Gu Yundong shook her head. No. Then I'm relieved. Tell me what's the good news. This time he was quite hospitable. He served tea to both of them and sat down at the side. You're used to being mysterious. Don't fool me with gossip. Gu Yundong snorted. When did I fool you with gossip? Do the math yourself. White sugar is great news, right? Last time about the Tao family it was also great news, right? Which time didn't I surprise you? Qin Wenjing thought about it. Hey, in that case it was true. He was instantly interested. Then tell me, what surprise did you bring me this time? Could it be that you have a recipe for green sugar or blue sugar again? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 906. The Tao family found third young master Gu Yundong was speechless. Your imagination is too poor and narrow. Alright, go ahead. I'll listen. Master Qin, do you know about smallpox? Qin Wenjing frowned. Hearing this word, he was not in a good mood. I know. Smallpox is a very terrifying and fast-infecting plague. Since ancient times, countless people have died from smallpox. 2 young geniuses from the previous dynasty died because of it. It's a huge pity. Even the royal family can't avoid it. There's no medicine to treat it until now. As Qin Wenjing spoke, he sighed and was puzzled. Why are you asking this? Could it be that the surprise you mentioned is related to smallpox? He paused and suddenly thought of something. Could it be that you have a way to treat smallpox? Gu Yundong was expressionless. No. Qin Wenjing was instantly disappointed. Then why are you saying this? Unless you tell me that there's a treatment method, it's not a surprise to me. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Your request just now was not so harsh. I don't have a cure, but I have a way to prevent it. Qin Wenjing was stunned. Prevention? You mean, the human pox vaccination method? Yundong, this is not novel. Someone has already used this method. I'm not referring to the human pox vaccination method. Of course, I know that this method has been used for a long time, and the failure rate is extremely high. I'm referring to a new method, the kind that is foolproof. Qin Wenjing was shocked and turned to look at her. Is what you said true? That's a surprise, isn't it? Qin Wenjing finally sat up straight with a serious expression. Tell me in detail. What makes you so sure that your method will be foolproof? Have you tried it? Gu Yundong looked at Xiao Qingyuan. My brother Xiao discovered this method. You should ask him to explain it to you. But let me make it clear first. You have to report this matter to the emperor truthfully and let him know that my brother Xiao has made a great contribution that's worth a death exemption medallion. He can't be implicated because of the Tao family. Qin Wenjing? He lowered his head slightly. From an angle that the two of them could not see, a strange expression flashed across his face. However, when he raised his head, he became nonchalant again. Of course. Tell me, I promise to report it truthfully. Gu Yundong took 2 steps back and let Xiao Qingyuan speak. Seeing that the two of them might talk for a long time, she simply left the school. I'm going to the street to buy some things. Qin Wenjing waved his hand, looking like he was burning the bridge after crossing it. Gu Yundong snorted coldly. Anyway, the credit was already set in stone, so she could rest assured. After leaving the school, Gu Yundong walked towards the busy street. However, just as she reached the entrance of the street, someone suddenly ran over. Yundong, it's really you. I was just about to go to Yongfu village to look for you. Gu Yundong looked up and saw that Lu Wei was panting and blushing from running. He rushed to her excitedly. Gu Yundong immediately took 2 steps back and distanced herself from him. Why are you looking for me? I have great news for you. Lu Wei's eyes were shining, and it was obvious that he was gloating. You have news too? Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Tell me. Let me tell you. The Tao family's eldest young master, Tao Feng, has found his biological brother, the 3rd young master Tao, who was sent out since he was young. Gu Yundong, who are you talking about? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 907. Third young master Tao is someone else. Gu Yundong felt that she must have been hallucinating. She tugged at her ears and asked again. What did you just say? Who found who? Lu Wei said proudly, Tao Feng, the big brother of Tao Xing, who is always jumping up and down and not doing anything serious except deliberately opposing me, suffers the consequences of his own actions. He found the 3rd young master of the Tao family. Oh right, you might not know that the Tao family still has the 3rd young master. He quickly cleared his throat and tried his best to share the gossip with her. Let me tell you, the Tao family originally had 3 sons. Tao Feng was the eldest. He and 3rd brother were born by Master Tao's first wife. Tao Xing was born by the current Mrs. Tao. Mrs. Tao used to be a concubine, but Master Tao doted on his concubine and killed his wife. Soon after the first wife died, the concubine became the new wife. Therefore, all these years, Tao Feng's life at home has been especially difficult. However, his 3rd brother was kidnapped since he was young. Gu Yundong was in a daze. Wasn't the 3rd young master of the Tao family Xiao Qingyuan? At this moment, Xiao Qingyuan was still explaining the cowpox vaccination method to Qin Wenjing. Why was Tao Feng looking for him? Kidnapped? Gu Yundong was stunned by the word. She suddenly raised her head and looked at Lu Wei. Did you just say kidnapped? Third young Master Tao was kidnapped? I think so, but this was said by Tao Feng. I don't know the exact situation. Lu Wei lowered his voice and said mysteriously, but when my father told me about this, he kept it a secret and looked like there was something else going on. I think it's definitely not as simple as kidnapping. Perhaps it's because Tao Xing's mother harmed him. How pitiful. Gu Yundong slowly took a deep breath. When was the third young master of the Tao family found? Yesterday morning, but I only got the news today. Lu Wei was a little regretful. I heard that the Tao family was very lively for a while. Mrs. Tao was determined not to let Tao Yan in. Even Master Tao and old Madame Tao didn't agree. It's also very strange. Tao Yan has been kidnapped for so many years. It wasn't easy to find him. Shouldn't they be crying tears of joy? Why is everyone's reaction so big? It's as if they've seen a ghost. Gu Yundong pursed her lips and suddenly turned around. Lu Wei was stunned and hurriedly followed. Hey, where are you going? I haven't finished speaking. Gu Yundong walked faster and faster until she started to run. Lu Wei chased after her for a while. He was in such a hurry that he stumbled. Just as he was blaming himself for eating too much recently and gaining weight, he looked up and saw that Gu Yundong had disappeared. Why did you run so fast? It wasn't easy for me to gossip with you, but you didn't stay and laugh with me. Are we still friends? Unable to catch up, Lu Wei gave up in the end. However, Gu Yundong quickly returned to Qin Wenzheng's school. Before she could enter, she saw Xiao Qingyuan walk out. She rushed to him and asked, "Are you guys done?" "We're done." Xiao Qingyuan was a man of few words. His explanation was simple and straightforward. As for the specific data, he directly wrote it down in his notebook and handed it to Qin Wenzheng to read it himself. After all, Qin Wenzheng was not a doctor, so he could not ask any professional questions. In any case, it was enough for him to know that the cowpox vaccination method was feasible and had a very high success rate. Therefore, Xiao Qingyuan came out to look for Gu Yundong. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 908. Old Manly lied to him again, but why did she look so anxious when he saw her now, as if something big had happened? Gu Yundong gritted her teeth. Wasn't something big going on? She grabbed Xiao Qingyuan's hand and walked in again. She strode towards Qin Wenzheng's study and suddenly pushed open the door. Qin Wenzheng was reading the notebook that Xiao Qingyuan had given him. When he heard the sound of the door breaking in, he was shocked and almost reflexively hid the notebook. Seeing that it was the two of them, he heaved a sigh of relief. You have to knock on the door before entering. Even your brother knows this. Don't you know this kind of etiquette as an elder sister? Gu Yundong did not seem to hear him. She rushed to him in a few strides and asked with narrowed eyes, I heard that Tao Feng found the third young master of the Tao family. The one called Tao Yan is in the Tao family now, right? Xiao Qingyuan's pupils constricted as he looked at Gu Yundong in disbelief. When Qin Wenzheng heard this, his body stiffened, but he tried his best to maintain a normal expression. But who was Gu Yundong? She had already figured out the connection along the way back. These words were not a question at all, but an affirmative tone. Seeing that Qin Wenzheng seemed to be looking for an excuse, Gu Yundong glared at him. Don't try to lie to me. It won't do you any good. Qin Wenzheng sighed faintly and nodded. Tao Feng did find Tao Yan. As he spoke, he glanced at Xiao Qingyuan and said, the real third young master of the Tao family. Xiao Qingyuan's mind went blank for a moment. He frowned. You mean, I'm not a member of the Tao family? Qin Wenzheng nodded. Yes, you must have been deceived by old Li. However, what he said about the third young master of the Tao family being given away as a jinx to be raised and tormented by others is true. Xiao Qingyuan was stunned. It was fake again. That old man lied to him again before he died. However, he had clearly investigated. He had personally asked the two old men who had been in the Tao family for more than 20 years and confirmed that the third young master of the Tao family had been carried away by old man Li. He was now 20 years old and so was third young master Tao. 2 days after third young master Tao was carried away was the time he appeared in Yongfu village. Master Tao's first wife's surname was Xiao, and when he was young he had the word Xiao on his clothes. He had seen that swaddling cloth. Moreover, if he was not the third young master of the Tao family, why would old Manly torture him like this? Qin Wenzheng glanced at him and sat down again. No wonder you couldn't find out. Back then, third young master Tao was indeed carried away by old Li. However, he handed the kid over to someone else. As for Xiao Qingyuan's clothes when he was young, it was very likely that Old Li had taken them from the real third young master Tao. Xiao Qingyuan lowered his head slightly. No one knew what he was thinking. After a while he suddenly laughed. In that case, am not the one that, according to Tao family, would jinx his relatives? Gu Yundong was stunned. Her heart suddenly ached terribly. It turned out that this was still what he cared about the most. Gu Yundong herself did not believe it, but Xiao Qingyuan had grown up in such an environment. Old Li had given him such a huge blow before he died. The saying that he was a jinx had already taken root in his heart and become a dead knot. She immediately reached out to hug him. Qin Wenzheng's eyelids twitched. It didn't conform to the rules. Was it appropriate? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 909. Gu Yundong's Accusation. Gu Yundong suddenly turned to look at him fiercely. Since Brother Xiao is not the third young master of the Tao family, where are his real family members? Qin Wenjing was stunned. Then he touched his nose and said softly, well, we haven't found out yet. Moreover, it's very difficult to investigate. I'm afraid only Old Li, who has been buried, knows. Then what's the use of you? Qin Wenjing was speechless. Did he agree to investigate Xiao Qingyuan's background? Did she have to vent her anger on others like this? Her temper was too bad. She probably wouldn't be able to get married. Gu Yundong did not look at him and said in a low voice, it's fine, Brother Xiao. Qin Wenjing is useless and can't find anything. We'll find your family ourselves. We'll definitely find them. Xiao Qingyuan shook his head. It doesn't matter. It doesn't matter to me whether I know my family or not. I have you now. It's enough. He suddenly felt a sense of relief. That sense of relief disappeared because Tao Feng had found the real third young master Tao. He was not a member of the Tao family. It was quite good. Gu Yundong looked up at him and saw that the smile at the corners of his eyes had become much brighter. She immediately smiled too. No matter what, we have nothing to do with the Tao family. Whether the Tao family dies or not, you will be fine. Okay. Xiao Qingyuan lowered his head and touched her forehead with the corner of his mouth. Qin Wenjing, do the two of you think I'm dead? It's fine if you hugged each other, but you even kissed each other? It's immoral. He pointed at them with a trembling finger and said, in public and before the two of you are married, how can you? Before he could finish speaking, the smile on Gu Yundong's face disappeared. She turned her head and looked at him sinisterly. It's fine if you don't speak. But once you speak, I remember that I haven't settled the score with you. Gu Yundong let go of Xiao Qingyuan and sneered. You knew about this long ago, right? You actually kept it a secret. You sinister, cunning, and evil person. Hey, you have to speak with your conscience. How am I a villain? I just found out about this today. You came over early this morning. I wanted to tell you, but I was so shocked by your good news that I forgot. Bullshit. Don't say dirty, you knew more than a month ago. Qin Wenzheng's eyes widened slightly. Damn it, you even guessed this? Gu Yundong smiled insincerely. More than a month ago you told Brother Xiao that although the Tao family's waters are deep, you can guarantee that Brother Xiao will be safe and sound. How could be so sure that the Emperor will not really implicate Brother Xiao? Now that I think about it, isn't that guaranteed? Brother Xiao is not a member of the Tao family. Whether the Tao family's waters are deep or not, it has nothing to do with Brother Xiao, right? Qin Wenjing, that's why I said that it's not good to fool someone smart. I was exposed in an instant. A trace of embarrassment flashed across his face. He said awkwardly, I couldn't say too much at that time. I think you're obviously doing this on purpose to cheat us of the cowpox vaccination method, right? You know that Brother Xiao and I are looking for a way out, and you're trying to squeeze out our last value, right? Gu Yundong's accusations became more and more serious. Xiao Qingyuan's eyes suddenly turned sharp as he looked at Qin Wenjing with an unfriendly gaze. Qin Wenzheng's eyes widened. This was a huge crime. What did she mean by squeezing them dry? He was just hoping that the two of them would be able to think of a great contribution. But in her mouth, he had actually become a heinous sinner? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 910. Then I'll beat you, stupid. You can eat whatever you want, but you can't spout nonsense. Qin Wenjing quickly explained, I was just curious about how capable you are. The facts have proven that you're indeed powerful. Flattery won't help. Give us back the cowpox vaccination method. We won't give it to you anymore. Qin Wenjing was speechless. Do you think this is children playing house? How can you take it back? Yundong, that's where you're wrong. The cowpox vaccination method is a good thing for the country and the people. Do you know how many people it can save if it's made public? This is a good deed, merit, and a huge matter that saves lives. How can you take it back? Besides, Xiao Qingyuan has already told me. I'll remember it in my mind. How can you take it back? When he said the last sentence, he was even a little proud. A genius was indeed a genius. He remembered everything Xiao Qingyuan had told him clearly. Gu Yundong gritted her teeth in hatred. It was not that she was unwilling to give Qin Wenjing this thing. She was angry that Qin Wenjing had known about it long ago but did not tell them. Did he know how long they had been on tenterhooks? This bastard. You've memorized it, haven't you? Then I'll beat you silly and see how you'll remember it. As Gu Yundong spoke, she grabbed the brush on the desk and threw it at him. Qin Wenjing hurriedly stood up and took a few steps back. However, Gu Yundong refused to give up. She grabbed the book on the table and threw it at him. Qin Wenjing cried out in heartache. You can't throw this away. This is the only copy. Hey, this is a purple brush. It's very expensive. That's a painting I've been working on for 2 days. Don't. Xiao Qingyuan, stop her. As expected, she wanted to beat him silly and destroy the things that he loved the most. Wouldn't he be so angry that his head hurt and he would go silly? Xiao Qingyuan saw that Qin Wenjing was calling him. He paused for a moment and silently walked to the side. He brought over a canvas bucket filled with many paintings and handed it to Gu Yundong. There's more here. Smash him. Qin Wenjing widened his eyes. Xiao Qingyuan, you're helping the evildoer. You deserve this. Qin Wenjing was speechless. He wanted to save his paintings, but Gu Yundong smashed them fiercely so he could not go forward at all. His heart immediately ached. Gu Yundong, calm down. I was wrong. I promise I won't hide it from you again. Don't smash it. It's broken. Qin Wenzheng's voice became sharper and sharper. Finally, it spread far away and was heard by the students who had already finished class and were resting in the lecture hall. Yunshu thought of how his eldest sister had also come to look for the teacher. Worried that something would happen to her, he hurriedly ran over. Seeing this, the others followed behind him. Soon the sound got closer and closer, but it was very strange. It seemed to be the sound of the headmaster wailing like a ghost. The headmaster usually cared a lot about his image. How could such a situation happen? Yunshu became even more anxious and started shouting from afar, "Big sister, teacher, big sister." Gu Yundong immediately stopped. Then, she flipped her hair and looked like a lady as if nothing had happened. Qin Wenjing was still panting when Yunshu ran to the door of the study. He looked at the mess on the ground and his watery eyes instantly widened. Sister, what happened? Did someone break into the house? The others also arrived one after another. When they saw this, they immediately looked at each other. Qin Wenjing sneered. He was about to say that the robber was his elder sister, but Gu Yundong had already spoken before him. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9-11. Gu Yundong's influence. No one is robbing anyone. Gu Yundong sat on the chair with a smile on her face. Her hair was neat and tidy. She waved at Gu Yunshu. The latter immediately went in obediently. Then, he heard his eldest sister point at the paintings on the ground and say, "Your Master Qin suddenly had a cramp in his legs just now." In a moment of desperation, he kicked over the painting bucket and hit the table. These things fell out. Look, they even rolled everywhere. Yunshu, call your classmates in and help Master pick them up. Oh, okay. Gu Yunshu quickly nodded and began to call his friends in. Qin Wenjing heaved a sigh of relief. Unexpectedly, Gu Yundong glanced at him and added with a smile, "By the way, your teacher is especially generous today. He said that these paintings, brushes, and paper were originally prepared for you. You can look at them yourself. If you like them, just pick them and bring them back." Yunshu blinked. Huh? Hadn't the headmaster always treasured these paintings? Was he willing to give them away? Qin Wenzheng's eyes almost popped out. His fingers trembled as he pointed at Gu Yundong. You, Gu Yundong smiled insincerely. Master Qin, your students are all looking at you eagerly. You won't go back on your word, right? Or were you lying to me again just now? She emphasized the word lying. Qin Wenjing looked at the eager gazes of the students outside the door and then at Gu Yundong, who was holding a painting that was about to be torn apart. He knew that he would definitely bleed today. His heart ached even more. He gritted his teeth and nodded. Yes, that's right. You guys, choose for yourselves. As soon as he finished speaking, the students outside the door walked in one after another and cupped their hands to thank Mr. Chen. After Chen Wenzheng nodded with tears in his eyes, he immediately rushed towards the painting he liked. Chen Wenzheng thought to himself, fortunately, these students were taught by him and knew when to stop. Indeed, everyone had chosen one. No. Yunshu stood up with 3 or 4 paintings. Chen Wenzheng widened his eyes. Why did you take so many? Yunshu said, I want to choose one for my father, one for my elder sister, and one for my mother and younger sister each. I originally wanted to choose one for Nyodan, Zhengjia, and Zhenglu, but I think we can't be too greedy. This is enough. Teacher, you don't have to be polite to me. Chen Wenzheng looked at Yundong in shock and cursed in his heart. Damn it, he had forgotten that a student here was taught by Yundong. It was obvious that Yundong's influence on him was much deeper than his. No, he had to focus on nurturing Yunshu in the future. He had to turn his temper around. However, Chen Wenzheng had forgotten that he was actually a sinister person. If the painting that Yunshu had chosen belonged to someone else, he would have wished for it to be swept away. 15 minutes later. Chen Wenzheng watched as every student left with at least 2 calligraphy paintings or brush and paper. His heart was bleeding. He looked at his empty study and comforted himself. It's fine, it's fine. They're all my students anyway. I'll give them to them sooner or later. I'm not angry. He walked up to Yundong and asked with a dark expression, Are you done venting your anger now? Yes, I'm done. Take the cowpox vaccination method. I want to take it back. Yundong stood up and said, I'll leave first. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:12. This is Yongfu village? Chen Wenzheng snorted. She should have left long ago. He really could not provoke this woman. In the future he promised to stay far away from her. For the sake of the cowpox vaccination method they had brought, he would let her off for the time being. As he thought about it, Chen Wenzheng quickly took out the handwritten notebook and started reading it. His eyes grew bigger and brighter. After reading it, he couldn't help but take out his brush, ink, paper, and inkstone. He began to write. After writing 3 pages, he carefully wrapped them with the handwritten notebook. Then he summoned a person and had him send the letter to the capital at full speed. After doing all this, Chen Wenzheng heaved a sigh of relief. He didn't expect Xiao Qingyuan to be so talented in medicine. That guy was indeed a talent. However, Xiao Qingyuan's background was really strange. Yundong was also thinking about this question as she sat in the carriage. Although she said that it did not matter, Yundong still took it to heart. She had never received the love and care of her family since she was young. She had always grown up alone. The feeling of wanting to have a family to rely on was too deep. Even though she no longer had extravagant hopes when she grew up, ever since she came here, she was still touched and surrendered to such warmth. But Xiao Qingyuan had never felt it before. She didn't know what his family was like. Did they want to stay far away like the Tao family, or were they like her father, who had never given up on searching after his wife and children were separated from him? She had never seen it before, but she could not help but think about it. However, Xiao Qingyuan did not care about the search for family, and Yundong would not take the initiative to mention it. If the result was bad, wouldn't it hurt him again? So let nature take its course. But no matter what, the Tao family's matter would no longer involve Xiao Qingyuan in the future. Yundong expressed that a huge burden had been lifted from his heart. Even if he was schemed against by Chen Wenzheng once, she could let it go. Right, I forgot to tell Chen Wenzheng that I'm coming of age tomorrow. I should have asked him to bring his wife, daughter, and gifts over. Yundong suddenly thought of this and was instantly vexed. Xiao Qingyuan said, Yunshu and Yuanji will definitely explain why they're taking leave tomorrow. In other words, Chen Wenzheng would definitely know. However, after today's incident, it was unknown if he would bring gifts. Yundong was a little regretful. I should have fallen out with him 2 days later. There was an indescribable regret in her tone. Xiao Qingyuan laughed out loud. The lightness in his voice stunned Yundong, and then he laughed as well. The two of them talked as they drove the carriage home. The family was already preparing for her coming-of-age ceremony tomorrow. Yundong looked at her parents, sister, and eldest aunt's busy backs and felt indescribably satisfied. She really hoped that brother Xiao could have such warmth too. Aunt Ku came over and called her into the room to try her clothes. Where did you go so early in the morning? Why do you look so relaxed on such an important day? Gu Yundong followed her in. Shen Sidian had already come over with a plain dress. Hurry up and try. If there's anything wrong, it's not too late to change it. The Gu family was in high spirits. No one knew that at this moment, 2 carriages were driving into Yongfu village. From one of the carriages, a person poked her head out and looked at the small village in front of her. Her curious eyes darted around. This is Yongfu village? That Miss Gu lives here? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:13. Inquiring. There were 3 women sitting in the carriage. The young woman who had spoken just now had already poked half her head out of the window. She looked at the village path in front of her excitedly and asked curiously and confusedly, why does she live in such a place? Sitting opposite her was Nie Shuang. She pulled her back to prevent her from falling out of the car window. Bao Lingyue, you have to be careful. This road is not smooth and it's different from the prefectural city. If you fall out, you might end up with a mouthful of cow dung. It was so disgusting. Bao Lingyue spat twice and turned her head to ask, aren't you curious about what kind of village Miss Gu is in? I'm curious but am not in a hurry. After Sister Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony, he'll get her to show me around the village. It's better than you looking around aimlessly. What can you tell? You're getting better at bragging. Didn't you say that your sister Yundong is very busy every day? How could she have the time to bring you around the village? Nie Shuang snorted softly and was a little proud. Who asked me to be Sister Yundong's good friend? You don't understand. She treats her friends with sincerity. Bao Lingyue rolled her eyes inelegantly. Madame Dai, who was sitting in the middle, shook her head and laughed. Alright, stop bickering. We still don't know where Yundong's house is. Let's ask our fellow villagers first. They'll ask. Bao Lingyue immediately lifted the curtain and her gaze swept across the area outside. Finally, her gaze fell on a simple-looking woman. She waved her hand and called out warmly, Auntie, can I ask you something? Jin Yuexiang saw 2 carriages entering the village and was curious to see if they were here to look for the Gu family again. In the end, they did not expect the carriage to not go to the Gu family. They were instantly happy. Hearing her call, she quickly raised her head and said with a smile, Miss, you're from the city, right? Looking at your aura, you're obviously a young lady from a rich family. This is a true daughter of a wealthy family. You're much better than those pretentious people. Bao Lingyue? She just wanted to ask a question, but she was suddenly flattered. This made her panic. What should she do? Bao Lingyue had always been a friendly person, but in front of Jin Yuexiang, it seemed that she could not get familiar with her. Nie Shuang leaned over and asked with a smile, Aunt, we want to know how to get to the Gu residence or Gu Yundong's place? Jin Yuexiang's face darkened when she heard Gu Yundong's name. She snorted and turned to leave. They were actually here to look for Gu Yundong again. They were just lost. What kind of luck did that brat have? Most of the carriages coming and going in the village were here to look for her. Were these rich families blind? Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue looked at each other. What was going on? Did they say something they shouldn't have? However, Jin Yuexiang quickly turned back and tried her best to squeeze out a smile. She pointed at the foot of the mountain and said, The Gu family is there. It's at the foot of the mountain. It's easy to recognize. You'll know at a glance. With that, she hurried away. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue's brows furrowed even more tightly. The 2 of them sat back in the carriage and said, This woman looked very unhappy just now, as if Sister Yundong had a grudge against her. Yes. I think so too. Don't tell me she deliberately pointed us the wrong way? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:14. A man and a woman. The more Bao Lingyue thought about it, the more likely it seemed. Look, she was just about to leave when she suddenly changed her mind and pointed out the way without saying a word. It looks like she has some bad intentions. Yes, that makes sense. Nie Shuang nodded. Besides, it's not like Sister Yundong doesn't have money at home. Why would she live at the foot of the mountain? I heard that there are many wild beasts in the 9 Tigers Mountain. If some tigers, bears, and wild boars run out of the mountain, wouldn't the families at the foot of the mountain be the first to suffer? Sister Yundong still has younger siblings. How can she live there? That woman lied to us. She pointed us in the opposite direction. The two of them nodded heavily and finally looked at the silent Madame Dai. The latter also felt that it made sense. Hence, Nie Shuang decided, then let's walk to the middle of the village. We'll ask the other villagers when we meet them. Okay. The two of them stuck their heads out and asked the coachman to continue riding towards the center of the village. This Yongfu village is good, but the road is too difficult to walk. Come, why don't we take the main road? We'll detour out and head for the wider road. We can't. What if we go the wrong way? We won't go the wrong way. Believe me, my intuition is very accurate. Besides, think about it. The Gu family has carriages going back and forth every day. It's not convenient to take the small road. They'll definitely go to the main road. That might not be the case. The carriage can't pass, you can get down and walk. Madame Dai's head hurt from the two of them arguing. Seeing that they were all leaning over to look out, she said angrily, I think what you said makes sense. Why don't we stop asking for directions and see who can convince who? Let's follow what she says. Nie Shuang was taken aback and her eyes suddenly lit up. That makes sense. Lingyue, let's not ask for directions. Come down and look for it yourself. Let's see who finds Sister Yundong's house first. ID like that. Madame Dai was speechless. The two of them alighted from the carriage, each with a maidservant behind them. Then they walked in the direction they had chosen. Madame Dai wanted to take back her words, but when she saw that the two of them had already sped away, she choked on her words and could not say anything. She sat in the carriage and did not move. Afraid that something would happen to the two of them in this unfamiliar place, she hurriedly asked the two servants in the carriage behind to follow. She quickly saw another woman and asked for the direction of the Gu family. When she found out that the Gu family was indeed at the foot of the mountain, she could not help but feel vexed. So that woman had not lied to them. Of course, Jin Yuexiang wanted to lie to them, but her son, Liang, was still lying on the bed half dead. He had been beaten up by the Peng family. The people in these two carriages were obviously rich and noble. If they knew that she had lied to them and broke her legs later, how could she live? However, she did not expect that her earlier actions would actually make people directly deny her words. She was very wronged. Madame Dai laughed. After thinking for a moment, she decided to go to the Gu residence first. When the time came, she would ask Yundong to send two people to look for the two girls. After all, she was not familiar with this place. She did not want to add to Yundong's trouble. At this moment, Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue were using different methods to reach the same destination. Although they had taken two different paths, in the end, they both stopped at the entrance of the same house. However, there was a man and a woman standing at the door of this house. From the looks of it, they seemed to be husband and wife. They were even holding gift boxes. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue looked at each other. This was the Gu family's house, so it was definitely not wrong. The two of them were also here to congratulate Gu Yundong on her coming-of-age ceremony, right? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:15. Someone is talking bad about you behind your back. Nie Shuang wanted to go forward and knock on the door, but this couple came first. Since this couple came first, they were naturally the first. The woman said something to her husband. She took a deep breath and went forward to knock on the door. However, after knocking for a long time, the door did not open. Bao Lingyue found it strange. Didn't the Gu family have servants? Why was the gatekeeper so unreliable? He didn't even guard it. Immediately after, the two of them heard the woman call out, Uncle, Aunt, it's Yulan. Open the door. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue were stunned. Uncle? Aunt? Were they Gu Yundong's parents? She had never heard of Gu Yundong having any cousins. Didn't Gu Yundong say that she only had one relative, eldest Aunt Gu? Nie Shuang suddenly realized that she must have found the wrong person. She pulled Bao Lingyue along, wanting to leave, but she did not expect to hear the man's impatient voice. That's enough. They deliberately refused to open the door. Your uncle has already said that he has severed ties with you, so why are you still looking for him? Qin Yulan was furious. Why are you still saying such things? If your mother hadn't gone overboard back then and insisted on slandering Yo Dan as a thief, would my uncle have been so cold-hearted and refused to interact with us? Calm, my mother just said it casually. If Gu Yundong had not meddled in other people's business, things would not have turned out like this. Gu Yundong? Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue stopped in their tracks and pricked up their ears to listen. When Qin Yulan saw that there were people around, she quickly came up and pulled Wu Chong. Keep your voice down. Your shop still needs her." As she spoke, she pulled Wu Chong out. "It seems that my uncle and aunt are not at home. Forget it, it'll come another day." Wu Chong snorted coldly. "I don't think there's a need to come over. Only my mother listens to your nonsense about how good the things in Gus are. So what if they sell well? We don't have the money to buy goods. Your cousin is just a shop assistant in Gus. What can he help with? Look at what he can do. I feel embarrassed to see him ordered around by that hooligan from your village." Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue did not hear the rest of the sentence, but they knew that these two people definitely had a feud with Gu Yundong and looked very shameless. The two of them were filled with righteous indignation, but when they thought about how they had found the wrong place, they immediately felt a little depressed. They thought that they should quickly ask the others. It was getting late. At this moment, they heard a laugh from afar. "I knew you would walk towards the middle of the village. You must find the village chief's house." In Yongfu village, other than the two houses she and brother Xiao had at the foot of the mountain, the green brick-tiled house of the village chief, Chen Liang, was the most eye-catching. So when Gu Yundong heard Madame Deus' words, she quickly came out to look for them. Coincidentally, Chen Liang's family was at her house today. As her coming-of-age ceremony was tomorrow, Madame Zhou and Madame Song were both helping her at home. When Chen Liang heard that Gu Dajiang was back, he came to talk to him. After Gu Dajiang persuaded him, he changed his attitude towards Niu Dan. As expected, this kid was becoming more and more motivated in his studies. It was said that he had even received praise from the teacher last time. Chen Liang could not wait to share this matter with him. Therefore, when Chen Yulan and her husband knocked on the door of the Chen family's house, it was not that Chen Liang avoided them. When Ye Shuang and Bao Lingyue saw her, they quickly walked up to her. "Sister Yundong." "Lady Gu." Gu Yundong was rather curious as to why Bao Lingyue had come, but before she could ask, Bao Lingyue spoke first. "Lady Gu, I have a big piece of news for you. Just now, two people were bad-mouthing you behind your back." This was big news? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:16. You don't understand. Gu Yundong readily agreed. "Who's bad-mouthing me?" Bao Lingyue gave her a look as if she were sharing huge gossip. The two people who were standing at the door just now were calling uncle and aunt at the door. They said something about you being a busybody and harming them. I didn't hear anything else. They didn't knock on the door and left with the gift box. They seemed to have said that they would come another day. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth twitched. Was it worth it for you to be so secretive and say that it was big news? That she was meddling in other people's business? However, Chen Yulan was the only person who called Chen Liang uncle at the door. Didn't Chen Liang cut ties with her? Why did she come looking for him? However, it was obvious that with the nature of the Wu family and Chen Yulan, they definitely had something to ask of Chen Liang. This was really interesting. They had caused Niu Dan to be wrongly accused and expelled from school. He had been pointed at as a thief and his reputation had almost been ruined. Now they still had the cheek to come to his door. Nie Shuang quickly said, "Sister Yundong, will they find trouble with you?" "No," Gu Yundong said. "I know who they are. Don't worry, they're just two thick-skinned people." Nie Shuang was relieved when she heard this and did not dwell on this matter. She only asked curiously, "Sister Yundong, is this really not your house? Then is your house really at the foot of the mountain?" Gu Yundong nodded. "Indeed. Why was it built at the foot of the mountain? Didn't they say that it was more dangerous there?" "Well, the reason is a little complicated. When we first fled to Yongfu village, there was only one foundation we could choose. In addition, it was quiet and the environment was quite good. It's not dangerous. There are very few wild beasts on Nine Tigers Mountain. They won't go down the mountain easily. Even if they went down the mountain, her house was much sturdier and safer than the other houses in the village." Bao Lingyue suddenly turned to look at her in surprise. "Yundong, did you flee here?" This lady was indeed very friendly. She had changed from Miss Gu to Yundong. Nie Shuang was unhappy when she heard that. "Why are you so surprised? Could it be that you looked down on Sister Yundong because she fled here?" "Of course not." Bao Lingyue quickly shook her head. "I'm just shocked. Fleeing to Yongfu village from the famine, wasn't that just last year? It's only been a little more than a year and he already has a workshop and a huge new tea pavilion. Isn't that too amazing?" Nie Shuang was very proud. "Of course. This is my sister Yundong." Gu Yundong was modest. "I was lucky. Come on, praise me again. Don't stand on ceremony. The three of them arrived at the foot of the mountain as they spoke. Looking at the two identical green brick houses, Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyu's mouths were agape. It turned out that the woman had not lied to them. As long as they reached the foot of the mountain, they would be able to recognize Gu Yundong's house at a glance. This house was big and beautiful. It was much better than the previous house. Gu Yundong did not understand their expressions. Although this house is very beautiful, it's not to that extent, right? The Nie family's and Bao family's houses are bigger than both houses. There are carved trees, painted buildings, fake mountains and lotus ponds. They're much better than this. You don't understand. You don't understand. The two of them shook their heads in unison. The main reason was that this house was in the village and was surrounded by low mud houses. Suddenly, two identical houses stood in front of them. The visual shock was completely different. Moreover, this house looked different from ordinary green brick houses. It looked energetic. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:17, The Difficult Madame Zhou Energetic? Can the house be described as energetic? Gu Yundong exhaled and led them through the door. The Gu family was very lively. Everyone took Gu Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony very seriously. Not only did Chen Liang's family come to help, but the Shi couple and Lan Huar also came. Dong Xiulan also brought the children. Gu Yundong had not thought of inviting Madame Dai and Ye Shuang. After all, she had almost forgotten that she was about to become an adult. Moreover, the coming-of-age ceremony was held in Yongfu village. Madame Dai and the rest were in the prefectural city. It would take an entire day to get to the county city by carriage. Not only was it a waste of time, but it was also tiring. But who would have thought that they would still come, and even bring along Bao Lingyue, a lady whom they had only met once. Gu Yundong had guessed that Bao Lingyue had a good relationship with Nie Shuang. After all, she could hear the familiarity in her tone when she spoke of Nie Shuang. However, Gu Yundong did not expect their relationship to be so good. According to Nie Shuang, she happened to bump into her when she and Madame Dai were about to set off. When she heard that they were coming to Yongfu village, she got into the carriage without a word and sent someone home to tell them that she was playing with Nie Shuang. It was said that she often went to the Nie family to look for Nie Shuang. The Bao family was already used to her. But of course, Gu Yundong was happy that they could come. She warmly welcomed them. Madame Dai arrived at the Gu house first and only had time to tell Gu Yundong about Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue. Gu Yundong let Aunt Ku lead her into the house to rest while she went out to look for them. Now that the three of them had arrived, Gu Yundong introduced them to others. She did not mention Madame Dai's identity and only introduced the three of them as seniors and friends from the prefectural city. Nie Shuang immediately hugged her arm and added, "We're especially close friends." Although Chen Liang and the others did not know who they were, they could tell that the three of them were young ladies and madams of wealthy families. Their statuses in the prefecture capital were probably not low. Especially Madame Dai. Chen Liang had seen the county magistrate's wife from afar in the county city before, but this Madame Dai looked even more imposing than the county magistrate's wife. He was a little restrained for a moment, and the others were even more so. Hence, after dinner, Mrs. Zhou secretly came to look for Gu Yundong. She was a little embarrassed to say that she would no longer be the main guest. Gu Yundong was stunned. Women's coming-of-age ceremony was usually attended by the witness, the host, the main guest, the director, the praiser and so on. The host was her parents. Gu Yundong's first choice for the main guest, who was supposed to be a female senior with virtue, was Aunt Ku, but Aunt Ku rejected her as a widow. Gu Yundong had no choice but to look for Chen Liang's wife. The village chief's wife had the highest status in Yongfu village. Coupled with Gu Yundong's relationship with the Chen family, it was reasonable to invite Madame Zhou as an official guest. Madame Zhou was also very happy at that time, and she patted her chest excitedly and promised that there was no problem. The director was Dong Xiulan. The praiser was Lan Huar. The few of them were already prepared. Why did she suddenly quit? Madame Zhou had no choice. Yundong, I didn't do it on purpose. I just feel that it's more appropriate for you to let Madame Dai replace me. I'm especially nervous now. I just feel that it'll mess it up. At the thought of being the main guest in front of a noble woman like Madame Dai, she felt that she could not comb Gu Yundong's hair during the ceremony. She felt that she would make a mistake. What if she couldn't even speak and Yundong's hair wasn't combed well? What if she embarrassed Yundong? Would Madame Dai laugh at Yundong? Would she look down on Yundong? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 9:18. Qin Wenzheng's name is familiar. Furthermore, Chen Liang even told her, I guess this Madame Dai might be the wife of an official. I was talking to Dajiang just now. When Dajiang saw Madame Dai enter, his expression changed. It was as if he respected her very much. The wife of an official? Madame Zhou felt terrible. She was the village chief's wife and could be considered an official's wife in the village. However, how could an official's wife like her, who wasn't even proper, compare to the official's wife from the prefectural city? Her legs went weak. She would definitely not be able to speak tomorrow. She would definitely lose face. Not only would she lose face for Gu Yundong, but she would also lose face for the village chief, Chen Liang. At the thought of this, Madame Zhou could not calm down at all. The pressure was inexplicably great. Gu Yundong did not know whether to laugh or cry. What should she do? How could she change the main guest just like that? This had been confirmed long ago and everyone knew about it. Combat facing Madame Zhou's pitiful gaze, Gu Yundong was momentarily speechless. Aunt Ko heard the commotion and thought that nothing should happen during the coming-of-age ceremony tomorrow. Otherwise it would not be good for Gu Yundong. And she agreed. Gu Yundong tried to persuade her a few times. Seeing that Madame Zhou was about to shake off her head, she could only agree. Then she went to look for Madame Dai. The latter understood the whole story and was so surprised that she could not close her mouth. Oh, was she that imposing? Didn't Yundong hide her identity? How could she have known that Chen Liang would make such a guess after seeing her? Unfortunately, he had even told Madame Zhou. However, Madame Dai had been the main guest a few times. She was not unfamiliar with this kind of thing, so there was naturally no problem and she agreed. However, Madame Dai still felt that she should tell her that she had snatched the original job of Madame Zhou. When Madame Zhou saw that Madame Dai had personally come to apologize, she was immediately flattered. It's not Madame's problem. I'm just too nervous. I'm a country woman who has never seen the world, really. Then she turned around and pinched Chen Liang fiercely. It's all your fault. Tell me what kind of official's wife she is. I'm so nervous. I saw that Madame Dai was approachable and easy to get along with. She even specially came over to comfort me. She doesn't look like an official's wife at all. You're really a jinx. My main guest role is gone. Chen Liang was speechless. What did he do? However, although she said that, Madame Zhou only blamed Chen Liang. If she was really asked to continue being the main guest, she would not agree. Fortunately, other than Madame Zhou, nothing happened to Dong Xiulan and Lan Huar. Although Nie Shuang really wanted to be the praiser, she was too embarrassed to snatch it since the candidate had already been confirmed. The next day was Gu Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony. Xiao Qingyuan was the happiest among them. His girlfriend was coming of age and was one step closer to their marriage. He looked at the hairpin on the tray and felt even more satisfied. He had chosen this hairpin. Contrary to Xiao Qingyuan, Gu Dajiang was the most reluctant one. His daughter had grown up and was one step away from him. Soon she might be married. At the thought of this, he couldn't help but glare at Xiao Qingyuan. His girl had been stolen by this pig. He was so angry, but he still had to maintain a smile. After all, as the host, he had to welcome guests. Early in the morning, many people came to the Gu family to watch the ceremony. Most of them were from the village and it was very lively. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue had learned a lot. So this was what the village's coming-of-age ceremony was like? Qin Wenzheng arrived at midnight and stepped into the door with his wife and daughter. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue, who were standing at the door, were stunned when they heard Qin Wenzheng's name. Why did this name sound a little familiar? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Therefore, after Madame Gu left, Madame Dai asked curiously, Yundong, is Mr. Qin Wenzheng very familiar with that young Master Xiao? Thinking about it, she felt that it was possible. Her son had a high evaluation of Xiao Qingyuan, who seemed to be a good talent. Therefore, be it Dai Wenhua or Qin Wenzheng, they could become friends with him. For Xiao Qingyuan's sake, it was reasonable for Qin Wenzheng to attend Gu Yundong's ceremony. Gu Yundong followed Madame Dai's finger and looked out of the window. Xiao Qingyuan and Qin Wenzheng were indeed chatting enthusiastically. They were probably talking about the cowpox vaccination method. Yesterday, Qin Wenzheng must have finished reading Brother Xiao's handwritten notebook and had stacks of questions in his heart. Now that they had met, he naturally couldn't wait to ask. Gu Yundong smiled and nodded. Yes, they're quite familiar with each other. Madame Dai asked again, then how did they meet? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 920. No, I reject. As far as she knew, although Qin Wenzheng looked easy to get along with, he actually had a line in his heart. He had always kept a certain distance from others and was not so easy to get along with. Not to mention looking so enthusiastic. Looking at the way he spoke to Xiao Qingyuan, she felt that Xiao Qingyuan was the cold and distant person. Qin Wenzheng's impression in her mind was somehow changed, making her find it unbelievable. Gu Yundong thought about it. How did they meet? She remembered. Qin Wenzheng seems to like to eat wild animals. Brother Xiao brought Lu Wei into the mountains to hunt 2 roe deers and gave them to him. That's probably it. Lu Wei also came early in the morning, but he liked fun. The moment he arrived, he brought the children out to play. Madame Dai was enlightened. So that was the case. She had heard from her son that Xiao Qingyuan often went deep into the mountains and even brought him in to hunt, so it was not strange. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue, who had yet to speak, were shocked when they heard their conversation. Auntie, is the Mr. Qin you're talking about the one outside the door? The 18-year-old top scholar? Yes, that's him. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue looked at each other and silently looked at Qin Wenzheng, who was speaking at the door, and sucked in a cold breath. Alive. This was Qin Wenzheng in the flesh. Today, at this moment, at Gu Yundong's house, at Gu Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony, they actually saw the 18-year-old young genius. Excitement, thrill, and an uncontrollable urge to go forward. Bao Lingyue grabbed Nie Shuang's hand tightly and said, if I tell Big Brother that Qin Wenzheng is still alive, he will definitely be very happy. Oh my god, I actually saw Qin Wenzheng. I grew up listening to his stories. My brother must be especially envious of me. I have to go to him and tell him about it. Me too. I feel like I'm dreaming now. What should I do? I want to go up and talk to him, but isn't this too presumptuous? I don't think so. She has a wife and a daughter. Let's not ruin their relationship. Yes. That was his wife and daughter just now. His wife is also good-looking. They're simply a match made in heaven. And his daughter is too cute. Gu Yundong was speechless. Were women so good at chasing celebrities nowadays? She felt that the two of them were about to faint. Seeing how excited the two of them were, Gu Yundong finally understood why the two of them could become good friends. Indeed, they were like-minded. Alright, there was also her father. He seemed to admire Qin Wenzheng very much. That guy is a sinister and cunning fellow. Don't be deceived by his appearance. Gu Yundong complained in her heart. If not for the fact that she had to maintain her makeup that was done at the cost being dragged out of bed early in the morning, she really wanted to rush up and shake the two of them awake. However, very quickly, this fire of excitement consumed her. Nie Shuang grabbed her hand. Sister Yundong, we're good friends, right? That Mr. Qin is your fiancé's good friend, right? Then can you invite him, no, beg him to write a piece of calligraphy for me? And me. Gu Yundong's expression was cold. Beg him? No, I reject. Seeing that she was unwilling, Madame Dai thought about Qin Wenzheng's personality and was unwilling to make things difficult for her. Hence she gave the two of them a look. Alright, have you forgotten what day it is today? It's almost time. Don't delay, Yundong. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. After the ceremony, Gu Yundong finally heaved a sigh of relief. Then she sent the guests off with Gu Dajiang and Madame Yang. When most of them had left, she returned to her room. After resting for a while, she changed into a simple dress again. Just as she was about to go out, a few familiar voices came from outside. She focused slightly and quickly distinguished the voices. This was Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue talking. However, the two of them only passed by Gu Yundong's room and quickly left. Hearing them mention Qin Wenzheng again, Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Could it be that they were really going to ask Qin Wenzheng for his calligraphy? She couldn't help but laugh. Go for it, fangirls. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Lu Wei was very generous and agreed immediately. The two of them looked at him gratefully. Lu Wei tidied his hair and immediately walked towards Qin Wenzheng. However, not long after, he returned with a dejected expression. Didn't it work? Nie Shuang asked. Lu Wei nodded and sighed. Brother Qin is not willing. Sigh. Bao Lingyue was very disappointed. Nie Shuang, on the other hand, looked at Lu Wei in surprise. She didn't expect this young master of the Lu family to admit it so straightforwardly. Didn't men usually care about their face? Why didn't he make up for it at this time? Bao Lingyue suddenly thought of something and quickly said, Isn't young Master Xiao familiar with Lord Qin? You are also familiar with young Master Xiao. Why don't you ask young Master Xiao for help? Lu Wei looked up and glanced at her. Xiao Qingyuan wouldn't do such a demeaning thing. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 923, Sister Yundong be euphemistic. Bao Lingyue, Nie Shuang, are you scolding us or yourself? But soon Lu Wei's eyes lit up. Yes, we can look for Gu Yundong. She must have a way. Nie Shuang said, We've thought about it too, but today is Sister Yundong's coming-of-age ceremony. We can't trouble her. She's been busy for the entire day and is resting in her room. How is she resting? Isn't she there? Lu Wei pointed behind them. Nie Shuang turned around and saw Gu Yundong walking over. She seemed to be in good spirits. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue looked at each other and hurried forward. They grabbed Gu Yundong's arms from both sides. Sister Yundong, Gu Yundong shuddered. Speak properly. Come, Sister Yundong, we want Mr. Qin's calligraphy and paintings. Sister Yundong, go and look for Master Xiao. He will definitely listen to you and help, okay? Gu Yundong was really afraid of them. All right. I'll go. She pulled her hand out forcefully, returned to her room and came out with a brush, ink, paper and ink stone. Then she walked towards Qin Wenzheng. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue were stunned and quickly said, Sister Yundong, young Master Xiao is over there. Gu Yundong nodded. I know, but didn't you want Qin Wenzheng's calligraphy? But, Gu Yundong quickened her pace and arrived in front of Qin Wenzheng in a few strides. Master Qin, give me 2 pieces of calligraphy. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue, aren't you being too direct? Be tactful. What if Mr. Qin gets angry? Qin Wenzheng glanced at the brush and paper in her hand and snorted. Nie Shuang and Qin Shuang no longer held any hope. As expected, Mr. Qin was unhappy. You still have the cheek to ask for my calligraphy? You should calculate how much you gave away yesterday. Your brother alone took 4 of my paintings, not to mention the other students. My entire study's calligraphy and paintings were ruined by you. If I wasn't magnanimous, I would have cut ties with you. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue? What did they hear? Gu Yundong resisted the urge to roll her eyes. He was magnanimous? He was clearly the one who schemed against her and did not dare to retaliate. Now he was talking as if he was very noble. How shameless. It was as if she really cared about his calligraphy. Just as she was thinking, Madame Guest's voice came from the other side. Husband, aren't we leaving? Qin Wenzheng quickly replied, Well, leave immediately. Wait for me for a moment. With that, he took the tray from Gu Yundong's hand and turned to walk to the table at the side. Then, he muttered as he wrote, On account that today is your coming-of-age ceremony, I won't argue with you. Then he wrote down 2 lines of words, all of which were blessings for the good and healthy. After he finished writing, he blew on it and handed it to Gu Yundong. Take it. I'll go back first today. After taking a few steps, he stopped and turned around. By the way, I heard from your father that he plans to take the elementary scholar examination after the new year. It'll help you solve the problem of the elementary scholar endorsement. However, it's not convenient to eat and drink in the examination hall. When you have time, think about how to make something delicious for your father. Gu Yundong nodded. Thank you. Qin Wenzheng left. Gu Yundong turned around with 2 pieces of calligraphy in her hand and met the dumbfounded expressions of Nie Shuang and the others. You guys, what's wrong? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 924. She lost. Nie Shuang swallowed his saliva and looked at Gu Yundong, then at the calligraphy in her hand. Then she turned to look at the door. Qin Wenzheng's carriage was getting further and further away. Bao Lingyu's eyes were wide open as well. Even Madame Dai, who was standing at the side, had a look of astonishment on her face. She had heard what Qin Wenjing and Gu Yundong said just now and felt that it was unreal. Even when facing her master, Qin Wenjing was polite and steady. But when facing Gu Yundong, it was as if his composure did not exist at all. Be it his tone or expression, there was a hint of indulgence. It was as if she was his younger sister. He should take care of her and try his best to satisfy any requests. After a long time, Nie Shuang asked, "Sister Yundong, are you very familiar with that Lord Qin?" This familiarity was not like what they had guessed. It was not based on Xiao Qingyuan, the middleman. Gu Yundong nodded naturally and asked, "Will he come to my coming-of-age ceremony if he's not familiar with me?" Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue both covered their faces. That's right. How could they have overlooked this? Come, if he only had a good relationship with Xiao Qingyuan, even if Gu Yundong and Xiao Qingyuan were engaged, Qin Wenjing would not have had to come personally to attend the coming-of-age ceremony. At most, he would have asked his wife, Madame Gu, to bring their daughter over. Only when he had dealings with Gu Yundong himself would he be so prudent to bring his family to her door. He did not leave immediately after the coming-of-age ceremony. Moreover, what did Mr. Qin say before he left? He said that she didn't have to worry about Gu Dajiang's exam. It was just that. This was a little different from what Nie Shuang and the others had imagined. They had clearly heard that Qin Wenjing was a rather cold and arrogant person, but they could not tell it all just now. That wasn't right either. When he rejected Lu Wei, he was very clean and cold. Gu Yundong did not know what they were thinking. If she could hear them, she would definitely despise them. Qin Wenjing? Arrogant? What did that have to do with anything? Nie Shuang felt a little regretful. If she had known that Gu Yundong and Qin Wenjing were so familiar, she would have taken the opportunity to say a few words to Qin Wenjing. At least her idol would know her. Bao Lingyue was still a little puzzled. Yundong, since you and Lord Qin are friends, then why did you two speak as if you were very resentful just now? Speaking of this, Gu Yundong started to hold a grudge. Because he just tricked me yesterday. Let me tell you, Qin Wenjing is indeed quite good-looking, but we can't judge people by their appearance. Some people are very... Before she could finish speaking, Nie Shuang suddenly exclaimed, "He tricked you? Sister Yundong, you're already so smart, but Mr. Qin actually tricked you. As expected, a genius is indeed a genius. A man like Mr. Qin, who is not only handsome but also talented, is really rare in the world." That's right. He can trick Yundong. His brain is indeed very useful. Gu Yundong was speechless. Was that the main point? Was that it? Isn't your fan filter too strong? She wanted to say that Qin Wenjing was sinister and cunning. You two ignorant girls, don't be deceived by his appearance. In the end, you actually interpret sinister and cunning as talented and meticulous? She was the one who had lost. Goodbye. Gu Yundong stuffed the two pieces of calligraphy into their arms and returned to her room. She didn't want to talk. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 925. Visit. After the coming-of-age ceremony, Gu Yundong felt much more relaxed. Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue finally calmed down after being excited for a long time with Qin Wenzheng's calligraphy. They did not plan to leave yet and asked Gu Yundong to bring them around the village. They would rest for 2 days before returning to the prefectural city. It was the same for Madame Dai. It was rare for her to come out, and it was quite quiet in this countryside. For the past 2 days she felt refreshed, especially when it came to what she wanted to eat. She could go to the backyard to pick it herself. This feeling of doing it personally made them feel exceptionally novel. As for Gu Dajiang, he didn't dare to slack off at all because he had to take the preparation scholar exam in February. Although he was confident and Qin Wenjing said that there was no problem, he was still crazily absorbing all kinds of knowledge. Therefore, he still had to return to the prefecture capital's Tianhai Academy. On the other hand, Madame Yang and Kiki stayed behind. It would be the new year in a month or so. There was no need to travel back and forth on such cold days. Gu Dajiang would have felt sorry for them. Therefore, on the morning of the second day of the coming-of-age ceremony, only Gu Dajiang, who was going to continue studying at Tianhai Academy, and Gu Dafeng, who was going back to take care of Bian Han, left the Gu family. After the two of them left, Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue held Gu Yundong's hand, wanting her to show them around. It was rare for them to come here, so Gu Yundong naturally had to play the role of a host. She brought them around the village. Actually, the villages were similar. However, because the lives of the people in Yongfu village were getting better and better, many houses had been renovated and looked much newer. As such, the village richer than the other villages. However, this road, after Nie Shuang almost sprained her ankle for the second time, she finally could not help but sigh. This road is a little bad. If only it was as flat as the road in the prefecture capital. She had almost stepped on dog excrement just now. Gu Yundong lowered her eyes and looked at the uneven road. She seemed to be in deep thought. Then she brought the three of them to the workshop to take a look. Nie Shuang was very excited. Your workshop is interesting. It's actually divided into several areas. It's simple and clear. It looks clean. Gu Yundong was not worried that they would learn it after a rough tour. The method of jam and preserved fruits was not a secret. Many people knew it. Her shop's business was good because of the different ingredient. At least for now, no shop sold products made of white sugar like hers. However, Gu Yundong did not bring them to the area where the white sugar was produced. She only let them take a look at the finished product. However, Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue were still extremely excited to see so much white sugar at once. Their eyes lit up and they almost pounced on it. Of course, they also had white sugar at home, but there was very little of it, unlike here where there were piles of it. After visiting the workshop, the three of them were very satisfied. After staying in Yongfu village for 2 days, Nie Shuang and Bao Lingyue even wanted to enter the mountains, but were firmly rejected by Gu Yundong. What mountain? They could sprain their ankles just by walking along the village road, yet they dared to enter the mountains? She was probably going to carry them back. Nie Shuang pouted. I've climbed mountains before. Mountains with steps, right? Gu Yundong glanced at her. Nie Shuang was very disappointed that her wish was not fulfilled. However, she had already stayed here for a few days. It was indeed time to go back. The next morning, the three of them packed their bags and left Yongfu village happily with a lot of stuff that Gu Yundong had given them. Gu Yundong sent them to the village entrance. When she returned, she looked up and saw a messenger pigeon flying over her head. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc. Please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 926. Rejected, not going a messenger pigeon? Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows and followed the messenger pigeon. As expected, it stopped outside Xiao Qingyuan's courtyard. She walked in directly. The messenger pigeon was indeed standing outside the courtyard. A Mao was feeding it with the millet. When he saw Gu Yundong enter, he immediately greeted her. Miss, are you here to look for young master? Young master is in the study. Yes, you'll go in and take a look. Gu Yundong reached out to touch the messenger pigeon before continuing inside. Xiao Qingyuan had indeed just opened a letter from the pigeon's leg. There was a large number of words written in the letter. Most of them were praise for him, while the other half conveyed a message: let him go to the capital. This pigeon belonged to Dr. Song de Jiang. Xiao Qingyuan had never met Dr. Song, but they knew each other's existence. Gu Yundong had seen that Xiao Qingyuan was talented in medicine and had a photographic memory of the medical book that Dr. Song had given him. He developed a good medicine for internal injuries according to the medical book. After other medicines were successful, Gu Yundong wrote a letter to Song de Jiang and asked him to send several medical books. Later on, Xiao Qingyuan opened his own pharmacy. He directly contacted Song de Jiang about medicine. After a while, the two of them became familiar with each other. Gradually, Song de Jiang admired Xiao Qingyuan even more. This messenger pigeon was the way the two of them communicated. Recently, Xiao Qingyuan had been researching on the cowpox vaccination method to deal with smallpox. He had not told Song de Jiang about this before because Yundong had racked her brains to think of a way to make a contribution to the emperor. Before he succeeded, he had to keep it a secret. However, after they reported this matter to Qin Wenzheng a few days ago, the latter quickly sent the letter to the capital. Since the emperor knew, Song de Jiang naturally knew too. As a result, he immediately sent a pigeon to ask Xiao Qingyuan to make a trip to the capital where the two of them would discuss the cowpox vaccination method in detail. However, after Xiao Qingyuan finished reading the letter, he frowned. After a pause, he took a brush and paper from the side with a cold expression and wrote a single word on it: no. Just as he finished writing, Gu Yundong came in. When she saw such a huge word on the paper, she was stunned for a moment and asked, "What's wrong?" Xiao Qingyuan didn't hide it from her. Song Dejiang asked me to go to the capital, but I rejected him. It would be the new year in a month or so. He was not willing to go to the capital at this time. It was so cold that he could not even make it back for the new year. After saying that, he folded the paper and compressed it into a small roll. Chapter 927. Advice. Xiao Qingyuan frowned. As expected, it was from Song Dejiang. As if he knew that Xiao Qingyuan would reject his previous letter, he went straight to the point. Kid, the cowpox vaccination method is very important. It concerns the lives of the people in the world. You have to come to the capital. Even if you reject me now, someone will definitely come to invite you personally in a few days. They'll wait for you here. Don't worry, a house has been prepared. You'll have a place to stay the moment you come. Xiao Qingyuan frowned tightly. Indeed, one after another. He should have known that once the cowpox vaccination method reached the capital, he would not be able to stay out of it. Gu Yundong dragged Qin Wenjing out and whipped him again in her heart. If he had told them earlier that Xiao Qingyuan was not the third young master of the Tao family, they would not have revealed the cowpox vaccination method at this time. Perhaps when things became clearer or when they had some ideas, they would send a pigeon to Song Dejiang and give him a headache. Both of them knew that Xiao Qingyuan's trip to the capital was inevitable. Gu Yundong was reluctant. When are you leaving? Xiao Qingyuan was even more unhappy. Then let's wait for someone to invite us before leaving. Gu Yundong nodded. The two of them originally thought that this would take at least a few days. They did not expect that the next afternoon, Qin Wenjing would bring 2 guests to the Xiao family. Looking at the travel-worn appearance of the two of them, he knew that they must have rushed over. It seemed that the current emperor really valued this important discovery. That made sense. If it was confirmed that the cowpox vaccination method could prevent smallpox, it would be a political achievement for him. In the future, it would probably be a very heavy mark in history. Moreover, for the civilians and the royal family, smallpox was fatal. No one could do anything to it. Since ancient times, many royal princes had died from smallpox. Therefore, the emperor was very anxious. Not to mention that it was not the new year yet. Even on the first day of the new year, Xiao Qingyuan had to make a trip to the capital. Gu Yundong had no choice but to prepare Xiao Qingyuan's luggage. Gu Yundong did not know how long this trip would take. For a moment she wanted to go with them. The atmosphere between the two of them was a little silent. Qin Wenjing couldn't help but touch his nose and say softly, "Don't worry, it definitely won't be long." Although it's a long way to the capital, hasn't Xiao Qingyuan already succeeded? As long as he explains what he knows clearly, those imperial physicians will be busy with the rest. Gu Yundong could not help but glare at him again. Then she turned around and continued packing Xiao Qingyuan's things. She prepared a lot of food for him and reminded him worriedly, "When you're outside, don't eat anything random, especially those hard and stiff steamed buns. Don't eat them. It's not good for your stomach. Even in the wild, you should at least heat them with fire and eat them when they're hot." Xiao Qingyuan looked at her back and felt like his wife was helping him pack his things when he was going out. Hearing her voice, even his heart felt warm. "Also, you have to be careful. Bring your bow, arrow and dagger with you. Didn't you get some poison and knockout powder? Remember to keep it well. If you encounter someone with good martial arts, fight if you can. If you can't, use the poison. If the poison doesn't work, escape quickly. In short, your life is most important." Qin Wenjing couldn't stand it anymore. They were only going to the capital, not to participate in the martial arts conference. Shaking his head, he quickly left. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 928. Let's get married. As soon as Qin Wenjing left, Xiao Qingyuan went forward and hugged Gu Yundong from behind. "Don't worry, you'll take good care of myself. You too. Wait for me at home. If you encounter anything that you can't resolve, look for Qin Wenjing. I'll take care of myself and come back as soon as possible. Also, the capital is big and has many good things. I'll also ask around to see if there's any news of Bai Musi." Gu Yundong lowered her head slightly and hummed. "There are many high-ranking officials and nobles in the capital, and the waters are very deep. I wonder if anyone will find trouble with you. However, Qin Wenjing will definitely make arrangements for this. You don't talk much, but you still have to build a good relationship with the 2 people who escort you along the way. Ask more about the situation in the capital. You have to know what to do. Xiao Qingyuan's eyes lit up. He enjoyed her nagging. In the past he really didn't talk much and almost didn't interact with anyone. Now he had changed. He had someone he cared about and he had opened a shop. As long as he was willing, basic socializing weren't difficult for him. Also, Gu Yundong suddenly became fierce as she spoke. I heard that the women in the capital are very bold. When they meet a good-looking man they can't help but give him a pouch or a handkerchief. There are also those who are shrewish and snatch others. You have to protect yourself, understand? You're not allowed to flirt with anyone. Qin Wenzheng was an example. How popular was he back then? It was said that he even had a few bumps because of the pouches that were thrown at him. In her heart, Xiao Qingyuan was much more handsome than Qin Wenzheng and was very eye-catching. Xiao Qingyuan turned her around, held her face and kissed her heavily. His eyes were filled with smiles. Okay. Gu Yundong pursed her lips and could not help but laugh. By the time he was done packing, Xiao Qingyuan had 2 big bags. He did not know what Gu Yundong had stuffed into them, but they were bulging. One could tell that it was a lot. Gu Yundong thought that it was too little. It was a pity that he did not have a spatial storage. Otherwise she would not have to work so hard. After everything was prepared, the few of them rested in the Xiao house for the night. The next morning Xiao Qingyuan brought a Mao and left with the people from the capital. The Gu and Zheng families had woken up early to send him off. Even Kiki was rubbing her eyes in Madame Yang's arms. She waved at Xiao Qingyuan and said in a childish voice, "Brother Xiao, have a safe trip. Kiki will miss you." Xiao Qingyuan nodded and scanned everyone's faces. Finally his eyes landed on Gu Yundong. "He'll be back as soon as possible." Gu Yundong nodded. Xiao Qingyuan took a deep breath and did not say anything else. Chapter 929. Something's wrong. Gu Yundong pursed her lips and repeated, "When you come back we'll get married." "All right." Xiao Qingyuan's eyes seemed to be emitting light. It was so intense that it almost swallowed Gu Yundong. He reached out and hugged her tightly. "This is what you said. Don't go back on your word. He'll come back as soon as possible." "Okay, be careful." Mao, who was far away, widened his eyes. Quickly split up. It was fine if they were hugging at home, but this was outside and it was in the village. There were people coming and going at the entrance of the village. You would probably be drowned by saliva. He quickly turned his head to look left and right. Fortunately, other than the 2 guards beside him, no one else passed by. However, the 2 guards were also shocked. Xiao Qingyuan and Gu Yundong quickly separated. He no longer hesitated and suddenly turned around to jump on the horse. "Let's go." After saying that, he shook the reins first and the horse raised its hooves and rushed out. The 3 people behind him were stunned and hurriedly got on their horses to chase after him. Why was he suddenly so eager to leave? Wasn't he reluctant to leave just now? Gu Yundong was still standing at the entrance of the village, watching the few of them walk further and further away until they completely disappeared. After a long time, there were already villagers walking back and forth around her. They even greeted her. Only then did Gu Yundong move her stiff body and turn to walk into the village. She was still not used to returning to the Gu house. A few days ago there were still many people at home. Father, eldest aunt, Madame Dai and the others had all left. Even Brother Xiao had gone to the capital. Gu Yundong suddenly felt empty and uncomfortable. Big Black limped out and rubbed against her calf. Gu Yundong reached out and patted its head. "You're quite energetic now. You're wild every day. But you have to stay at home for the next period of time. Brother Xiao has gone to the capital, and no one will bring you into the mountains to play." Big Black wasn't used to coming to Yongfu village at first. Even after its leg was cured, it still looked tired all day. Later, Xiao Qingyuan saw that it had completely recovered, so he led it into the mountain. After returning, it was very excited and wanted to run into the mountains every other day. Xiao Qingyuan didn't have that much time and could only bring it there occasionally. However, Big Black slowly adapted to life in the Gu family. In addition, the Gu family's food was good. Yunshu and Yuanji liked it very much. They would leave a portion of delicious food for it and take it out for a walk at night. Big Black was limping now, but its fur was black and shiny, and its eyes were sharper. It looked very energetic. Big Black seemed to understand Gu Yundong's words. It made a whimpering sound, but no one knew if it was sad or regretful. Gu Yundong smiled and led it into the house. After Xiao Qingyuan left, Gu Yundong was really depressed for 2 days. She felt that something was wrong. In the past, when she wanted to talk to him, it was as if she could see him the moment she turned around. He was almost everywhere. Now, it took her a while to realize that he had gone to the capital. He was probably still on the way, right? Gu Yundong patted her face and did not think about him for the time being. She had her own things to do which were also important. Early that morning, Gu Yundong put on her clothes and cloak and strode towards the village chief Chen Liang's house. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 930. Buying land and building roads. The weather was cold and there was nothing to do in the fields. Chen Liang did not want to go out either. Now that Niu Dan was going to the county city to study on the Gu family's carriage, there was no need for him to wake up early in the morning to take him to school. This made him feel much more relaxed. When Gu Yundong came in, he was warming himself in front of the brazier and talking to Madame Zhou, who was doing needlework. Hearing the sound, Madame Zhou hurriedly stood up and came out to welcome her. Yundong, why are you here at this time? Come in quickly. It's cold outside. Come and warm yourself by the fire. Gu Yundong smiled and sat opposite Chen Liang. Madame Zhou poured her a cup of hot tea and she placed it in her palm. I'm here to see Uncle Chen. I have something to discuss with him. What is it? Tell me. I want to buy some land at the foot of our mountain. Uncle Chen was stunned. Your house isn't big enough. Gu Yundong smiled. Of course not. Uncle Chen, you also know that I've found my aunt. Their household registration has already been moved to Yongfu village. It's just that they came late, unlike back then when we could directly be given land. So if we want to build a house, we have to buy some land, right? Chen Liang nodded. That's true. There's also my uncle. Although I haven't found him, I want to buy some land first. It'll be convenient for us to be neighbors in the future. Alright, Shinsidian wants to buy a piece too. The land she wants is next door to the Zheng family's house. It's not very big. Shinsidian made a few large embroidery pieces and Gu Yundong brought them to the prefectural city to sell. Their price was quite beautiful. Hence, she had some savings now. She had the money to build a house. Gu Yundong was worried about her living alone, but that did not stop her from buying the land first. Chen Liang was speechless. Why did she buy so much in one go? When did the foot of the mountain become so popular? He swallowed and nodded silently. Sure. Gu Yundong looked at him with a smile. Chen Liang acted quickly. In the afternoon he went to the government office to settle the matter and gave Gu Yundong the title deeds. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 931. Chen Liang is excited currently. There were two paths from the entrance of Yongfu village, but they were not wide. In particular, there was a stretch of road that was especially difficult to travel on. There was a small uphill and it was narrow. At most, it could only allow a carriage or an ox cart to pass. The workshop needed a lot of fruit now. Every time they transported fruits, they had to move carefully. She had learned that the carriages could pass through that road, but if they tied a basket on both sides of the carriage, it would not be able to pass. Moreover, the things in the carriage fell easily. Once they fell, they would be snatched back by the children in the village and dispersed. Every time the fruits were transported back to the village, it was when the children were the happiest. Everyone followed behind and stared eagerly, hoping that the fruits would fall to the ground. There were also villagers who were very dissatisfied with the fact that the Gu family's carriages and carts often passed by their houses. They said that the horses peed on the ground and the stench was overwhelming. Of course, these people did not dare to say it in front of her, but they muttered behind her back, making Father Tong, who often drove the carriage, furious. His horses did not poop or pee in front of other people's houses at all. This was slander. But no one believed him. So even if Gu Yundong wanted to build this road, there was nothing she could do. She could not tear down someone else's house and widen the road, right? Chen Liang also felt that it made sense. He nodded and said, "It's indeed not suitable." If you build the road from the Gu family's workshop to the village, how do you plan to do it? Chen Liang asked. Gu Yundong had considered this and discussed it with Tong Ping and the others. The Gu family's workshop is also at the foot of the mountain. I want to build it straight. However, in this case we either have to pass through two fields or pass through the He family's backyard. I'm wondering if I can negotiate with the He family. Madame Zhou found it strange. Why didn't you choose those two fields? Gu Yundong did not say anything. Chen Liang glanced at her and said, think about who owns those two plots of land. The Li family. That's right. Compared to the Li family who had a grudge against Xiao Qingyuan, the He family was naturally the more suitable choice. Most importantly, the He family was poor. Their house was quite dilapidated, and there were not many fruits and vegetables planted in the courtyard. If she were to offer appropriate compensation, the other party might agree. As far as Madame Zhou knew, the He family was still relatively easy to talk to. If a road was built at their door, it would be extremely convenient for their family. Chapter 932. You cunning girl. The way Chen Liang looked at Gu Yundong changed instantly. He pointed at her. All right, you cunning girl. Gu Yundong looked innocent. What's wrong with me? I didn't do anything. She smiled and stood up. Then you'll have to trouble Uncle Chen for the rest. I'll go back first. Shall I wait for good news from Uncle Chen? Go, just go. Chen Liang was a little vexed and did not want to see her. The corners of Gu Yundong's mouth curled up slightly. She bade farewell to Madame Zhou and turned to leave the village chief's house. As soon as she left, Madame Zhou, who was confused, could not help but ask, "What did you mean just now? Why did you scold her out of the blue?" When did I scold someone? Chen Liang suddenly raised his head and asked in shock. Who did he scold? Why didn't he have any impression of it? Madame Zhou pointed at the door. Didn't you just say that Yundong is very cunning? Isn't she cunning? Chen Liang said, she said that she wanted to build a road for the village today, but she bought a few pieces of foundation yesterday. Madame Zhou looked confused. Chen Liang felt even more vexed and could only explain. Think about it. The road she mentioned is built from the foot of the mountain to the entrance of the village. It's the closest to those foundations. Just wait. When that road is built, if anyone wants to buy a foundation in the future, most of them will choose that area. If more people choose this, won't the price of the foundation increase? Everyone in Yongfu village was living a good life now. As far as he knew, there were a few families who wanted to buy another piece of land to build a house because they had too many people in the house and couldn't expand it in their original location. Madame Zhou understood now and immediately clapped her hands. Isn't that so? Husband, let's hurry up and buy a piece of land over there while everyone doesn't know about this. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 933. The He family's request. It was a big deal to build roads in the village. Chen Liang was the village chief, but he had to discuss it with the respected elders in the village. Other than the sixth grandfather, there were also a few families with great seniors. Everyone sat down and discussed this matter. When they heard that they were going to build a road for the village, these elders were all excited. There was nothing they did not agree to. Even if there were difficulties, it was fine. You just had to overcome them. The Gu family had already given them so much convenience. They could solve all the other small problems. Everyone reached an agreement without any objections. When Chen Liang came out of the sixth grandfather's house, his face was slightly red. Without delay, he went to the He family's house again. The He family did not have a strong presence in Yongfu village because of their remote position. Although it was not at the foot of the mountain, it was at the edge. There was a large field behind the house, so it was inconvenient to go out. There were a total of 4 members of the He family. He Shanchuan and his wife had a few-year-old son and a mother. He was not in good health. She could only lie in bed for 2/3 of the year, especially when the weather was too hot or cold. She took medicine all year round, so the He family could not save money. Mrs. He could only stay at home to take care of her child and mother-in-law. Then she would clean up at home, plant some vegetables and do some embroidery work. Only He Shanchuan was busy with the work in the field. The family was diligent and managed to make ends meet, but they were really poor. When Chen Liang came to explain the situation to the He family was stunned. Was he going to tear down their courtyard? Chen Liang was afraid that they would misunderstand, so he hurriedly said, "Of course it's not for free. The village will definitely compensate you. You can think about it carefully and see what you need. If it can be done, the village will definitely satisfy you. If it can't, well, think of another way." Chen Liang had discussed with the elders that it was only right for the village to provide the compensation that the He family needed. Yi Shanchuan's family fell silent. Chen Liang looked at the head of the family and said, "We also know that you can't bear to part with it. It's a pity to tear down this courtyard. However, it's a big matter in the village after all. I also hope that this road can be built. When the time comes, it'll be convenient for your family to go out. Of course I won't force you. If you're really unwilling we can expand the field to the side. I agree. As soon as Chen Liang finished speaking, He Shanchuan looked up. The rest of the He family looked at him in surprise. Chen Liang's face immediately lit up. Chapter 934. The Gu family's benevolence. However, He Shanchuan's request was not too much. Chen Liang had already settled the only difficult matter. Next he could start building the road. The next day Chen Liang banged on the gong and drum, gathering everyone in the village to the grain-sunning field. He stood on the steps and faced the curious and confused gazes of the villagers. He coughed lightly and said, "I've gathered everyone here today to announce something." "What's the matter?" "It's so early in the morning. I'm freezing to death." Chen Liang glared at that person and said, "Of course it's a good thing. If you're unwilling, go back and warm yourself up." "I was just joking. Uncle, don't mind me." That person quickly changed his face. When he heard that it was a good thing, he immediately became excited and did not feel cold anymore. He urged him, "What good thing? Uncle, quickly tell me." Everyone quickly let him speak. Moreover, they realized that not only was Chen Liang, the village chief, present, but even the sixth grandfather and the other elders were present. This was strange. What kind of good thing was it that even they, who usually did not like to go out, were here? Chen Liang looked around and said loudly, "Our village is going to build a road." "What, build a road?" The audience instantly buzzed and started whispering to each other. Someone could not help but ask, "Village chief, what's going on with this road construction? Is the government doing it for our village? Who's paying?" "That's right. Do we have to send one person to work from each family? Is there any salary?" "I won't go without a salary. We have a lot of work to do." Everyone had different thoughts. In this day and age, when it came to building bridges, roads, and dams, the first thing they thought of was forced labor. The late emperor was muddle-headed and tyrannical. The people who suffered were the commoners. The current county magistrate was not bad, but the previous county magistrate was not a good person. Many people in their village died from exhaustion during forced labor. Therefore, everyone was very resistant to building roads. Chen Liang saw that the villagers' thoughts were all crooked and hurriedly said, "Everyone calm down first. This road is not ordered by the government. It's the Gu family's benevolence. They paid to build a road for our village." The grain-sunning field was indeed silent. Everyone looked at Gu Yundong, who was standing not far from the village chief, in disbelief. The Gu family was going to pay for it? Everyone's eyes lit up. Since the Gu family was paying, it was definitely not forced labor. "Oh, wasn't that a good thing?" Someone asked anxiously, "Gu girl, how do we build this road? Can we build it at our door? Let me tell you, the road outside our house is full of potholes. When it rains, if we step on it, half of our shoes will sink in." Gu Yundong glanced at that person. "Oh, wasn't she the auntie who said that Gu Yundong's carriages passed by their house to poop and pee? You really have the cheek to say that." However, before she could say anything, someone immediately replied, "What's there to build at your door? Didn't you hear what the village chief said? We're going to build a wide road. The path in front of your place is so narrow. How can it be considered a road? Unless your house is torn down." "Why not? Our family's path can still allow the carriage to pass. The Gu family's girl's carriage often passes by our door. Our family's road is the main road of the village. It has to be done." As she spoke, she became a little smug. "Gu girl, since you're so generous and benevolent, why don't you tidy up the outer wall of our house while you're building the road?" Chen Liang frowned and regretted what he said just now. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. It's just an additional road that will make it more convenient for everyone to drive ox carts, donkey carts, and carriages in the future. Someone thought, "Hey, isn't that so? Our family is planning to buy an ox recently. It will definitely be comfortable to drag the cart on the main road in the future." That's true. In the past, when we were pulling the cart to transport food, we kept bumping obstacles on the village road. It was too strenuous. Then when I go to the foot of the mountain to pick up firewood in the future, won't I be able to carry it directly to the village entrance from the main road? Yundong, is the main road straight? Will it take many turns? Gu Yundong replied with a smile, "No, it's just a straight road." "That's great. Our family is planning to buy a donkey cart. With the main road, I won't have to worry about my driving skills being bad." The discussion below was turning for the better. Although there were still some voices that made people uncomfortable, Liang still heaved a sigh of relief. Gu Yundong waited for everyone to finish talking before continuing. "Next, I need to hire 20 people to build the road. Anyone who is interested can sign up at the village chief's place. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible." Chapter 936. A letter hire? That was money. This was the real benefit that could be seen in front of him. Soon, the dissatisfied voices disappeared. Even the auntie who had been against Gu Yundong from the beginning immediately wanted to sign up for her son. She could not wait to ask, "How much is the salary for a day?" However, Liang also had a temper. She was the one who opposed most just now. Now she still wanted to work? Dream on. He looked at the villagers and said, "Everyone quiet down first. We have to make things here first. It's best if we finish building the road before the new year, so we want young and strong people who are diligent. Those who are too old or too little, don't come and join in the fun." It wasn't the time for farm work and many people were resting at home. Some people went to town or county to do short-term jobs. However, it was not easy to find short-term jobs, so it was easy to find 20 young men in the village. Not long after, the village chief registered their names and told everyone that the salary for a day was 50 copper coins, no food included. Come, everyone work hard. The Gu family isn't the only one who can take this road. Everyone in our village can take it. This is a road built for ourselves, so everyone has to perk up and build this road for me. Do you hear me? I hear you. Don't worry, village chief. We definitely won't be slacking. That's right, that's right. Our village is getting better and better. In the future there will definitely be more and more ox carts. Everyone can use this road. Seeing that everyone had such an understanding, Liang was relieved. He brought these 20 people to take a look at the positions and choose the leader. Unfortunately, Feng Daning was not around. He was still renovating the houses in the prefectural city. Otherwise it would be best for him to take the lead. However, there was also an experienced master who was good at building roads. It was the same for him to lead the way. Among these 20 people was He Shanchuan from the He family. There was nothing to do now. He Shanchuan originally wanted to enter the city to find work, but now that there was a job in the village, he did not have to make an extra trip. Gu Yundong did not care much about what happened next. On the road construction matter, Liang was more concerned than her. He kept an eye on it early in the morning every day as if he was afraid that something would happen. Fortunately, everyone was working hard and did not hesitate at all. Gu Yundong bought a lot of sand and stones and laid them flat on the ground. People wouldn't be afraid of mud on a rainy day. After building a part of the road, she specially let the carriage try it. As expected, it was much faster. After building the road for more than 20 days, it was almost done. At this moment, Gu Yundong received Xiao Qingyuan's letter. This letter was to inform her that he was safe. Xiao Qingyuan said that he had arrived in the capital and met Song Dejiang. The entire journey was safe. He ate and slept well. He remembered her words firmly in his heart without any illness or pain. Gu Yundong wanted to laugh when she read this, but the longing in her heart also spread. He had arrived in the capital so quickly, which meant that he must have been traveling at full speed. After reading the letter, she immediately picked up her brush and replied to him. She recounted what she had done these past few days and also told him about the road construction in the village. In the end, she wished him a happy new year in advance and told him to take care of himself and come back soon. Although they had been separated for a few days, it was quite interesting to have letters. Gu Yundong heaved a sigh of relief and felt much better. A month later, the road from the foot of the mountain to the entrance of the village was finally completed. If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. If we get first place, our business will definitely improve. When the grocery store survives the crisis, We will definitely visit you personally to thank you, okay? Chen Jinkai sneered. Everyone is limited to 5 caddies of white sugar a day at Gus. As long as you take the money I can sell it to you. Qin Yulan's face stiffened. Brother, are you kidding me? How can 5 caddies be enough? Besides, the white sugar in your shop is too expensive. Can you sell it to us at a cheaper price? 50, 30 caddies a day? They'll buy some delicious food for sister-in-law and nephew later, okay? Qin Jinkai was so angry that he was about to laugh. Okay, my ass. You have a good plan. 15 kilograms a day and you want it to be cheaper? How are you so capable? Are you asking me to embezzle the goods in the shop? If you find any errors, ads pop up, ads redirect, broken links, non-standard content, etc., please let us know reports so we can fix it as soon as possible. Chapter 939. You will be the shopkeeper. Qin Yulan laughed dryly. Brother, don't say that. We're family. We're just helping each other. Brother, I'm your biological sister. If you don't help me, I really won't be able to live. As she spoke, sadness welled up in her heart. Tears were about to fall. Biological sister? You still have the cheek to say that? Back then, when Yodan was slandered by your mother-in-law, why didn't you say that we were biological siblings? When my father came to seek an explanation, you still kept slandering Yodan. Why didn't you say that we were biological siblings? Let me tell you, our families have long cut ties. Let alone biological siblings, we won't even be strangers in the future. For a moment, Qin Yulan was embarrassed by his scolding. Her face turned pale, and there was a faint anger rising in her. However, when she thought of her current situation, she suppressed it ruthlessly. On the other hand, Wu Chong, who had been silent all this while, snorted coldly and said to Qin Yulan, I knew it was useless to beg him, but you just didn't listen and insisted on coming over to get scolded. Don't you see that he's just a small shop assistant? He's just an errand boy who carries goods. There's a rascal shopkeeper above him. What can he do? What dare he do? Qin Jinkai suddenly looked at him. Yes, you're right. I'm just a little buddy. I can't do anything. So please don't come to my door again in the future. Hurry up and leave. Get lost. Get lost. Don't appear in front of me in the future. With that, he pushed the two of them out. Qin Yulan still wanted to say something, but Qin Jinkai didn't give them a chance at all. His face was full of impatience. However, just as the two of them were about to be pushed out of the door, Zhuangzi returned. Updated by NOVG. Kohi was still holding a food box in his hand. When he saw the 3 of them, he was stunned for a moment. Then he frowned and said, Qin Jinkai, what's wrong with you? Who asked you to chase the guests away? Qin Jinkai stopped in his tracks. Even Gu Yundong raised her eyebrows. Tong Shuetao, who was at the side, whispered, What's wrong with Zhuangzi? Doesn't he know Qin Yulan? He already knows that she's not a good person, yet he's still helping her. Don't tell me he's deliberately finding trouble with Qin Jinkai? Gu Yundong waved her hand. Just watch. Actually, the 3-month trial that she had agreed on with Zhuangzi had been over. However, it was almost the new year. In addition, Lan Huar would be getting married soon, so he might as well wait for another 2 months and go to the prefectural city with Jiangbao after the new year. Therefore, Zhuangzi was still the shopkeeper of Gus' shop, but he stayed in the backyard most of the time and let Qin Jinkai take charge. Chapter 944. His daughter is powerful. The news that the Gu family was going to distribute New Year goods quickly spread throughout the village. On the other hand, the people in the workshop were still working hard to do their last day of work this year. Tong An's handcart was pulled back to the Gu family. Gu Yundong led the family to tidy up the New Year goods first. The stuff was similar to last year's. It was also pork cloth and sugar, but last year's brown sugar had turned into white sugar. In addition, everyone had a piece of pastry bought from the county city. It had been ordered long ago. When the Gu family saw that the courtyard was filled with food, their eyes were filled with surprise. Gu Dafeng sighed. In the past, if I got a small piece of meat, I would wake up laughing even in my dreams. Even if it was for the sake of sharing this meat every year, I could continue to work in the workshop. I didn't expect that the meat would be distributed this year. Just thinking about it makes my heart ache a little. Gu Yundong smiled. Even you think so, eldest aunt? If you can't bear to give up this job for a piece of meat, will others think the same? Gu Dafeng was stunned. She pointed at her. You're smart. Wasn't that so? How many families in this village were like her in the past? They had to be careful when they wanted to eat a piece of meat during the new year. There were not many bosses like Gu Yundong. After distributing the items, Gu Yundong planned to make a trip to the workshop. She had yet to tell everyone about the gathering. On the other hand, Gu Dajiang was quite curious about this annual party. He followed Gu Yundong to the workshop. Your annual party is quite interesting. How did you come up with it? Well, could Gu Yundong say that she did not think of this? She turned around and met Gu Dajiang's curious gaze. She could only swallow. Then she said in all seriousness, Father, here it goes. We're all at the dining table when we discuss business. Your classmates often arrange to eat and talk together, so when it comes to socializing, eating and drinking are the most suitable. Everyone usually just works hard. I guess some people don't know each other. Why don't we give them a chance to relax and eat together, right? Gu Dajiang fell into deep thought. Indeed, many things were easy to say at the dining table. Conflicts quickly dissipated over a few drinks. Those who had common topics might become closer after chatting. Coupled with the good food and drinks, everyone felt a greater sense of belonging to the workshop. She was trying to buy people's hearts. His daughter was amazing. Gu Yundong did not know that he was thinking so much. As the two of them spoke, they arrived at the entrance of the workshop not long after. Chapter 945. They are all jealous. There shouldn't be much to do, right? I think it should be done afternoon. How about this? After everyone is done, let's clean up the workshop, okay? All right, someone immediately replied loudly. Even if boss doesn't say it, well, clean everything up before going back. Boss, don't worry. In fact, they still wanted to work. They had heard that there was an additional salary these few days. It was just like Zhuangzi and Chenjinkai in the county cities Gus. During the new year, the shop could not be closed. After all, they sold sweets and other things. Business was good during the new year, so the two of them would take turns to run the shop. However, their salary for the few days was also calculated separately. It was much more than usual. Many people in the workshop were envious. Unfortunately, the workshop was on holiday. Gu Yundong saw that everyone had different expressions and more or less knew what they were thinking. She immediately found it funny and continued, after cleaning up, send some people out and borrow 10 tables from each family. I want those big tables that can seat more than 10 people. Everyone was surprised. Boss, why do you need so many tables? For the gathering tonight, of course. Gu Yundong smiled. Don't go back for dinner tonight. Let's have a meal together and chat. How about that? Wow, the boss is treating us to a meal? Cheers instantly erupted in the workshop. That's great. I want to eat lunch. I'll save it for dinner. Ha ha, forget it. With your stomach, no matter how much you eat for lunch, you can still swallow a cow at night. Boss, I'm drooling now. We definitely won't leave. After cleaning the workshop, we'll borrow tables and stools. I guarantee that everyone will be able to sit down. Gu Yundong could feel everyone's excitement. Even Gu Dajiang was infected by this enthusiasm. He could not help but say, there will be New Year presents to be delivered tonight. Gu Yundong turned to look at her father. Gu Dajiang immediately touched his nose and coughed lightly. Well, I couldn't help it. I just wanted to make everyone happier. As expected, as soon as he said that, the workshop exploded. Some young men couldn't help but jump up. Ah, I've been looking forward to the New Year presents for a year. Gu Yundong was speechless. She had not seen them so happy when they were given the wages. She shook her head, thinking that there was still a surprise tonight. She hoped that they would not be too excited. After saying that, Gu Yundong left with Gu Dajiang. As soon as they left, the workshop was instantly filled with joy. Everyone gathered together and discussed. Helpless, Tongan walked out and said, Aren't you going to work? The earlier you finish your work, the earlier you can eat dinner. Everyone instantly dispersed.